Hello and welcome everyone to Pact of the GM, a collection of unlovable misfits who have all sworn their souls to me, the GM. We've been playing D&D together for about a year and a half now, and we thought we'd share our fun with some strangers on the internet because that's what you do when you're having fun. Seeing as this is episode 1 and kind of our first time doing this, I think it'd be quite nice if we could go around the group and introduce ourselves. I am Alex, I'm the GM. I've been running TTRPGs or tabletop role-playing games for many, many years. I've been role-playing in other formats a lot before that as well. And that's about all you need to know. If we just go down our players as they appear on the screen, we've got Natara, played by Keth.
Hello. Yes. I'm pretty new to D&D. I'm Kat. I play Natara. Pretty new to D&D. Not that new to streaming, as some of you here know. I play a bit of a... Should we introduce the characters now? Or just ourselves, Alex?
Just yourselves for now. We'll have a chance to introduce characters in a minute.
Yeah, I'm a Norwegian living in Wales. 31. Pretty boomerish. But I'm pretty sure I'm not the only boomer here. Which makes me happy. Love these guys. We've been playing now for like a year or a bit more together. My first introduction to D&D and loving it. Next one up is Jake.
Yeah, hi. I'm Jake. I'm a content creator. Love D&D, love roleplay. Obviously, very English. But yeah, I absolutely love this game and really looking forward to playing. So we go on to, I think it's Jared next, isn't it?
Jared would be next, yeah.
It's me. I'm Jared. I've been playing D&D for a few years, but this is kind of a group that's been going on consistently for, as people have said, just over a year now. And we've been waiting far too long to start a second campaign, so I'm very ready to get stuck in. And with that, I think we go to Jensen.
Hello, I'm Jensen. I didn't know that we had to prepare something like this. I've been playing D&D probably, is it a year and a half since our first campaign, Alex? Anyway, I've only really been playing D&D since Alex introduced me to it. Very much enjoy it. I play Durgus, who's a little dwarf boy. And yeah, I think that's about it. Unless we're going to list off all our biographics.
Just up to Gavin now.
And yeah, I'm Gavin. I've been playing D&D for pretty much the same as everyone else, just over a year and abouts. Joined these guys in their group a little later than everyone else, so I'm the new guy. And yeah, looking forward to a new game with him.
Yeah, and absolutely, I put you all on the back foot with that because no one was expecting to have to introduce themselves.
Yeah, no.
So it's so it's pretty good going for the rest of it because obviously, hopefully, a lot of this is going to be based off of you guys reacting to what I say. Just to give a little bit of introduction. Well, before I give any introduction to the campaign, I am just going to mention we were hoping to have Travis Willingham with us tonight. Some of you may know him from Critical Role, very famous individual. Unfortunately, I never actually messaged him, so unsurprisingly, he's not actually here with us. But we're hoping for next week. Fingers are crossed. With that being said, however, I will give some introduction to the campaign, and then I think we will jump straight in. The players can introduce their characters, and we can get playing what we're here for. Okay? So, our adventure is set in the world of Edeneris, a fantastical land of magic, opportunity, swords, and villains. Our hope is there will also be some heroes to counterbalance such evil. In particular, we are on the eastern coast of Middenfair, which is an island republic beset on all sides by the uncivilized and monstrous. It is a cosmopolitan and wealthy state. Middenfair has existed as a kind of powerful marmite of people from across Edeneris, and it regularly exerts this influence to spread itself further. Despite this, One Direction has remained very resistant to all of this nasty civilizing mission. The Eastern Expanse. It is a vast body of water interspersed with a multitude of archipelagos and islands and even some larger bodies that for a very long time was considered a kind of safe venture for adventurous merchants. But after the discovery of far greater wealth further afield, a number of attempts have been made to colonize eastward. All of them have failed dismally. The last one was at the hands of a pirate known as Skane the Black, who tormented and hunted across the Eastern Expanse at will. He indulged in every vice and desire he could lay his greedy little hands upon. and settlements burned, trade fleets were sunk, and even on the breeze, every sailor could hear the sound of his organ and this booming singing voice, this fear never far from their hearts. Eventually, as with all pirates, Skane was finally laid low in the Bay of Bilges. But in his final moments, he is meant to have placed his very power, the dark essence of his being and his soul, into his most favoured decanter. This artifact, now known as the Drowned Decanter, was lost after the battle, but supposedly would grant the person who found it a single wish. Very recently, a rumour has spread that the decanter has resurfaced somewhere near, or perhaps even in, the small backwater town of Storia. Sellswords, priests, and hopeful nobodies have all ventured from far and wide to try and find news of the decanter. Most have gone home empty-handed. However, not everyone has been put off by this, and one more party still has hope that they might find something others have missed. After a slow, meandering journey east and then south, we are joining these new arrivals. It's pouring with rain. They are surrounded by the dark, dreary hovels of Storia, illuminated by just gloomy, hooded lanterns, one in particular, clutched in the hands of a sniffling dwarf. There are 5 fresh souls looking into a tavern with envy as the faintest whiff of roasting meat and freshly cast ale wafts out towards them. "I was told all visitors were supposed to be given papers," the dwarf exclaims very loudly, shaking his head as there's just this fresh drip, drip, drip with the weather and water plopping down from this hooked nose that's poking out from under his hood. He peers up, doing his best to avoid being splashed in the eyes, and inspects who it might be that is standing, or even sitting, in the cart. And I think we go through and introduce ourselves again, though this time we go with our player characters. So, Natara.
Hello. Natara, she sits in the corner of the wagon, leaning backwards, a book in her lap that she's scribbling in. She seems to be sketching those around her, just carefully. She's a comely looking woman. She got silvery locks that can often be mistaken for old lady hair. You can often find her just scribbling away, or a nose in her book. That's the main thing she does. On her belt, there's a lot of vials with different bright colors, and they don't look very safe. In terms of height and build, she looks like the average human. The only thing that looks a bit different is that very white, silvery hair. She looks over at one of her companions in the cart, which happens to be a gnome.
Gnome could introduce how he looks as well.
Yeah, standing, or maybe sitting, no one can really tell, at the sort of back of the cart is a sprightly looking male gnome with brown hair tied up in a man bun, with a strong, thick moustache that kind of curls at the ends, and quite bright sort of blue eyes. A pair of goggles rest on his head, and notably he's got this sort of toolkit wrapped around his waist that has all kind of manners of wrenches and tinker's tools. He stands there, though, with a sort of kind of stubby cigar that he kind of puffs on, this sort of big air of smoke kind of billowing out from his mouth. He kind of shrugs and kind of looks towards one of his other companions.
Sat in the back of the carriage with a large axe resting by his side would be Barrand, a very tall human man wearing a hefty fur coat. His features are a little rough around the edges, paired with a relatively unkempt beard, likely groomed with the blade of a knife. His hair would be dark and dull, tied to keep out of his face. He'd be sat kind of minding his own business, a little unsure about what the dwarf is asking of them, and if anything, bringing a whetstone to his axe, keeping it maintained for the travels ahead, as he would look out towards a fellow companion, this time a dwarf.
And this dwarf would be sat with his shoulder sort of stooped. What would usually be a shock of ginger hair would now be sort of wet and going down his face. He was quite short and stocky, with almost wild, youthful eyes, despite the rather glum expression. His skin seems quite weathered, as if he's a bit of a traveller, which was sort of exacerbated by his long, unkempt beard, and the armour, which is sort of clad around his form, a scale mail sort of interwoven with furs, which were matted with a bit of mud. Beneath this, it could be seen what appears to be a large book, almost bound to his chest. To his side, he just had two small war axes, notched, quite well used, which should probably explain his relatively confident demeanour, despite the fact he seemed quite pouty right now. And just on his back, he had this long green shawl, crisscrossed with a bow, sort of slung over this large backpack, which sort of rattled as he moved with its heavy contents.
Finally, leaning against the carriage, watching over the argument, or discussion more accurately, going on in front of him, is a tall, pale, somewhat delicate-looking man who's nervously playing with his quill as he pulls his sun hat down over his eyes a little, protecting himself from the rain. His freshly combed moustache and quite prominent chin just visible beneath it. He wears a long, flowing blue robe trimmed with silver runic patterns, held on by a hastily knotted sash around his waist, atop which a belt sits with just a monstrous amount of scrolls and papers stashed away, somewhat protected from the rain. At his feet, a large pair of curved and pointed riding boots sit with a large rucksack that is equally overflowing with equipment beneath him. He's just leaning against the carriage, trying to keep out of sight while he watches over the goings-on.
Indeed, a rather motley crew, but the dwarf looks between all of you. His eyes still mostly hidden by the hood, which still drips with this heavy rainfall, as he looks up. So, where's your papers then?
The gnome at the back, at this point, noticing that none of his companions are going to say anything, stands up, kind of, holds the sort of cigar kind of at his side and kind of sort of stands in a sort of power pose and goes, hey, I don't think we're given any papers.
No papers at all? Looks
Yeah,
between
nada.
some of the others. Looks between some of the others to see if they've got any papers.
The man at the back, lifting the whetstone from his axe, would lean over. I wasn't even informed there would be any papers required.
Oh, well, it's relatively new. The Edmund's not said much about it, but still, folk like you should be bringing papers.
How new we're talking?
Yeah, nobody told us to bring any papers around.
Well, where was you a week ago?
A week
On the
ago?
Carriage.
Hey, we're travelling here.
I suppose they don't get letters out to carriages, do they? Fine. You can come in, but you got money? We need money. You got some gold? We'll only let you in if you got gold.
I might have a couple coins, but
Couple?
nothing.
You got a couple of coins? Oh, hand them over then. The dwarf waddles up to the man who just offered some gold. Holds his little grubby hand out.
I suppose. And Brannon will dip down into his bag and shuffle around, bringing out a couple of gold coins and place them in his hand. Will that do for the lot of us?
Yeah, he snatches his hand back incredibly quickly, as if he's never seen gold before. Checks it really briefly and then stuffs it away into a hidden pocket and just go, of course, just go straight in. Strico, gestures to the driver. You staying? There's just a quiet shake of the head from the forlorn-looking figure who is leaning over his horse, patting its rump very protectively. He nods his head and says, fine, I suppose. You get yourself into the wench. And he gestures with his thumb at the tavern you can see just ahead of you.
As he's sort of, as the sort of dwarf speaks to Strico, Geronimo is going to plod his way up to Strico and kind of give him a little pat on the back and go, hey Strico, I hope you're feeling a little bit better. He kind of gives him a wink.
My head's a little bit woozy still, but he just rubs at the back of his head.
That's what you get when you keep drinking so much like you do.
Wasn't a drink, it's where I hit my head. He starts grumbling to himself, just incoherently.
Let's leave the poor man alone and get out of this godforsaken rain.
All right, let's go.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's hard to smoke a cigar out here. And he kind of like looks at the cigar that is now damp and wet, and kind of like prods it a little.
I'm sure
I
you'll
mean, we're
survive.
not going to talk. Fuck's sake. We're not going to talk about the fact that you've just been scammed, I imagine. He sort of points towards.
Well, we probably were, but it wasn't my gold.
The dwarf who took the gold is rapidly, like, he's almost gone now. He's just turned, he's making for an alleyway.
We'll lead the
I
way.
paid
to the
for
left.
everyone. Oh, sorry. I paid for everyone. Do not worry about it. Let's just discuss it later. As Baron dips down, grabs his bag, and shoves it on his back, he's going to quickly make his way towards the inn.
And unless you guys are going to not follow him, I shall assume you're all entering the inn. The rain and the gentle thunder in the background begins to fade, replaced instead by the eerie sound of an inn that is clearly not doing very, very well at all. There are a few patrons sitting around in quiet corners, scratching away at the table and the fittings whilst they nurse what looks like half or three-quarter full jugs of ale. Meanwhile, behind the counter, a fairly lively looking gnome is currently darting around actually on top of the bar, wiping out glasses, has like dusters kind of tied to their feet and they're using them to kick out and dust the side, though it seems really unnecessary. This is probably something they repeat every day given the lack of customers. The place doesn't look dirty, it just looks empty. As you walk in, the gnome looks round, sees you. Oh, hi! Welcome!
Oh, thank you. Do you have any rooms available? We're looking to stay for a little, I assume.
Will you all need one room?
Well, possibly. If we could yes, that would be preferable.
One room for all. My only big room's in a bit of a mess right now. Would you be willing to wait a few hours? Maybe order some drinks? She looks very hopeful as she says this.
I don't suppose that would be an issue. I turn to the others and see curiously look at their opinion.
Yeah, Geronimo's going to immediately look Brannon dead in the eyes and give him a big old thumbs up.
That's a definite yes, then. Just a round of, what do you have?
Ale.
That'll do then, just a round of ale.
Well, we got water, but you probably don't want that because it's got stuff moving in it.
It's got stuff moving in it.
Well, because that's where I've got to keep the fish to keep them alive. Because we cook our fish fresh.
Oh, that sounds like a positive at least.
Natara looks very puzzled.
Does the water come with free fish then?
No, though you might get some of their eggs. I think it's that time of the year.
Well, I'm not opposed to extra protein.
Let's just go with the ale for now. Maybe grab some fish egg later.
Just
Fine, the ale. Just the ale then, fine, okay. And she walks off down the counter, gets to the end and hops down on a stool that's just out of sight before grabbing 5 of the wooden mugs, filling each one in turn at the tap and then placing them on the counter, standing on her tiptoes to do so before she steps around the side. Give me a minute, let me just check on the room. And that she scampers off to one of the dark corners in which you see she kind of turns round what seems to be a section of the wall that's been slightly brought out, clearly revealing where a passageway leading to other rooms would be, leaving you alone in the very empty, very somber, almost miserable interior of this dreary tavern. There's a few relics, is probably a better word than trophies, of old animal hunts that have been mounted on the walls, but they are small, pathetic beasts that, even having been treated, look like they're practically moulding away at this point. The few locals, an assortment of humans, gnomes, dwarves that are there, have all stopped their conversations and now just look at you with this deadpan, almost sour, unwelcoming look.
Baron would turn to the rest of the group. You know, judging on how busy this place is, I wasn't expecting to have to wait for a room.
Well, I
Well-
did panic a little and take us all to get one room for all of us to share, but I suppose that would be cheaper
Maybe they only have one large room.
to ask, if I'm honest.
I
Or
mean,
maybe
will all of
something
you small lot?
happened.
I mean, will all of you tall lot fit in one room? I mean, is that going to work?
I mean, you
Well-
and the gnome can bunk together.
Yeah. We're pretty small.
We can always ask as she gets back. I'm sure she's just checking in on it. In any case, should we grab a table? And I'm going to look around. Is there many tables free?
There's a lot of tables free for you. A lot of stools as well, though they're ranging in quality and how well put together they are.
Brannon will just walk up to the nearest one, place his rucksack down by the stool closest to him, and take a somewhat nimble seat down, worrying that it might be not so well built.
Yeah, Geronimo's gonna like move close to Brannon. He sort of like kind of finds a seat and sits next to him, and sort of looks the sort of human up and down, and then kind of like sort of appears to be sort of wanting to talk to him at some point when everyone's settled.
Baron will take a few heavy steps over, dropping his belongings to the floor and just thumping down into the seat, taking a heavy sip of the ale.
Tara.
Is there a... sorry.
Go on.
Oh, is there a fire nearby, Alex?
So there is a fire fairly nearby. In one of the walls, there is a small stone fireplace that has been left going. It's not exactly roaring, but it definitely ekes out a fairly soothing warmth that, against your sodden and sorry bones, feels quite good. It's not a totally cold room, but the fire could still do with perhaps stoking up.
Yeah, okay. So he'd go over and essentially take off his backpack and sort of the wet furs and give them a bit of a rinse on the floor before setting the backpack by the fire. Before turning around and returning back to the group, sort of squatting down on one of the stools.
Natara's gonna sit down next to Durgus. Just not really taking a sip from her ale. Instead, she pulls up her book again with the sketches and notes she'd already made, looking them over.
Geronimo's going to look at Brannon at this point and then speak. Hey, Hatsi, did you think that, maybe that because you spent so much money, did we get some free stuff?
If I'm honest, I think I got a little conned, but I haven't actually seen him since. Did he run off?
He disappeared somewhere. I don't know where, but like, I think it could be in our interest to, maybe request something extra, you know? And he kind of rubs his fingers together.
Well, if you're feeling up to it, but please don't give us a bad reputation as we've only just arrived. Be polite, he says questionably.
I am nothing but polite, pal.
Fair. Well, if you feel comfortable doing that, please go right ahead, but I think the lady's gone at the moment.
Yeah, when she gets back, I'll, maybe me and Smalsy can go take a look. And he kind of nods towards Baron at that.
What are we needing to do? Find that dwarf?
Yeah, just, maybe get something that sweetened the deal.
I hate to break it to you, but I imagine if he was even official, they likely probably wouldn't ask for gold like that.
Yeah, he's
Honestly.
probably long gone by now.
As now I think about it, needing papers seems a bit questionable. I think
And accepting gold instead of papers is also very questionable.
so. I think we have most certainly been conned.
Well, when you say we, I
Well,
mean, it's
you were very quick to give him the gold.
Yeah,
I was going to say something.
I'm not going to start trouble. We've just arrived. I'm here for other business, and I don't particularly want to mess up with my relationship with the locals.
As you are having this conversation, the gnome returns, hurrying around. In her hands is clutched what seems to be a fairly small blanket, which she's using almost like a sack by holding two corners. she moves behind the bar, and then there's just this loud clattering sound as things hit the ground as she drops it, and she goes, no, that won't do. She spins round and goes, and this time just peeks around the corner to look down whatever hallway she's just come from, with a very nervous, worried look on her face.
Hey, lady, you okay?
Her head starts to turn, looking where she was looking, and then over to you, and then back to where she was looking. Tell you what, and she hurries over as she comes near the table, and she actually manages to grab hold of the table, pulls herself on top of it, and then just kind of sits down near your drinks. Perhaps not the most hygienic, but hey, it's her tavern. She looks between all of you and hushes her voice conspiratorially as she peers around at the other regulars that are still here. I was wondering, you're new to town. I don't recognize you. That's right.
That's correct, yeah.
Are you here about that rumor with the funny drinking thing with the pirate?
The funny drinking thing?
I think she means the decanter.
That's it. I can't remember what it's called.
The decanter what? Yeah. Maybe. Who's asking? He kind of leans in a little bit closer and kind of gives her narrow eyes, sort of peers her.
I'm not asking anything. There was a group here that's staying here before, and in fact they were the ones who had the room that you're going into. It's just they're not here anymore. And the room's a bit of a mess.
Yeah, you said that before. But what's the matter now? You look kind of like you've seen a ghost.
No ghosts. No ghosts. And she makes a little sign over her chest as if warding off bad luck at the mention of ghosts. It's just... Can I show you?
Geronimo looks to the others at this point, not wanting to kind of speak for them.
Doug, sorry. You might I actually hate this. Yeah, you might want to say that again, Jericho. I think I talked over you for it.
Yeah, Baron would look towards Geronimo. Well, if she needs help cleaning up or setting up the room, I'm happy to oblige, but hopefully not the same fees if we're partially doing the work.
Durgus is already off the stool and sort of walking up to the woman. Was like, right, show us.
Yes, I suppose so. At that she turns. She clearly didn't expect such an immediate response, and she turns, her eyes going back to Baron briefly before she lets herself down and speaks very loudly as if for the other patrons in the tavern. Yes, follow me. I'll just show you the room now. And she leads you round into the fairly short, dark, dimly lit corridor, moving past just this set of very standard, run-down, fairly haggard-looking doors. None of them have a lock on, and she gets to the one at the far end of the hallway before pushing it open with a creak for you to all peer inside. As you do, you can see a room that has clearly been ransacked. When she said they left a mess, perhaps you had ideas that, they weren't great guests. No, this room has clearly had someone go into it and throw stuff over. The beds have been overturned. The mattresses have been cut open. Books, which perhaps were left for patrons, or maybe it was the belongings of the original occupants, have been opened up, torn out, and just thrown all over the floor. Even chests and small boxes that were perhaps used by the previous adventurers to carry their gear, torn open, thrown apart. Everything has just been scattered around the room. Someone looking for something was here. She just looks back to you with this very nervous, worried look on her face.
It wasn't you who did this, was it?
Me? No, why would I do this? It's
I
my
just thought-
business.
I mean, I'm no god, but this sort of thing strikes me as quite illegal. What do you want us to do? Just clean it up for you? I mean, we'll probably charge. I'm no maid.
I mean, yes, but also, you're smart enough. This wasn't just them making a mess. And she looks down the hallway to check if you've been followed by anyone, and it doesn't seem you have been. So she again leans in close in case of people overhearing. They never checked out. They were here, then they just stopped coming back, and then a couple of nights ago, someone broke in and did this. I'm worried.
Did you hear anything? see anything? Or did this just happen?
I woke up when I heard a commotion, but I didn't see anything. By the time I had my gown on and I'd come down with a candle, whoever it was had already gone.
Well, I don't mind having a look. If you wouldn't mind, and he steps forward towards the door, trying to squeeze by.
He shakes her head and goes, "You don't need to clean up." I was joking. But they were obviously looking for the same thing you were, and they might have something still that could be of help to you. It's not good business when your patrons go missing. She nods her head as if almost trying to convince herself.
Yeah, Geronimo looks towards her, narrows his eyes again. Is like, yeah, makes you think twice about wanting to stay here. Hey,
No. You still want to? I put a new lock on the window. There's a wooden board in there. She points to just like a wooden plank leaning up against the wall, and I'll have a couple of bars put in so you can bar the door.
Geronimo's going to go over to. He's going to just step all the way through and go over to the window, and he's going to inspect the craftsmanship of this.
You can give me an investigation check.
Oh, and this is the first roll.
First roll of the campaign.
Go.
Let's see what we get.
One incoming.
Investigation
Absolutely.
check. I cannot wait.
An 18.
Not bad.
An 18.
Not bad.
Pretty good. That's pretty good. Okay. You move up to the window and can clearly see, even compared to like your lack of experience with locks, this is not a good one. Whatever has been attached here is just a very hasty kind of latch into hook section. And it's probably been forced before. The wood underneath the hastily attached lock looks fairly fresh. It doesn't have the same kind of coat or tar or wearing that the rest of the wood does. This could be forced quite easily, and in fact, you're pretty good with your tools. There's probably a couple of tools you could use, even from your belt, not designed for this job, that will be able to kind of slide in and unhook this. This is not a very good lock at all.
All right. Geronimo sort of goes about and sort of plays around with the lock. He sort of kind of does a few things here and there and kind of huffs and goes, yeah. I guess it'll do. And he kind of looks at the others and shakes his head like this is not okay. Quite plainly, obviously, she probably ought to see as well.
Some of you mentioned before an interest in this decanter, and we're here, and clearly she's in distress, so we might as well see what we can find. Maybe we can at least hand in some information to the guard or something.
Well, I guess we could try and help.
And then afterwards, worst comes to worst, we could always... he kind of looks at the lady and then looks back, cupping his mouth a little bit with his hand. Stay somewhere else.
Geronimo nods quite viciously and a lot at that.
Durgus would shake his head before picking up. Oh, she clearly needs the help. You can't just abandon her. He peers towards her now. Did you ask around? I mean, does anyone see them escaping or something? Maybe climbing out the window?
Another furtive glance towards the door, as if checking if you've been followed again before. Well, that's the thing. You're talking about the guard. You're talking about getting help from other people. Things haven't been great here recently. There isn't really a guard, so to speak. More a communal justice. And even that's been lax. She just nods her head.
I suppose that explains the dwarf taking the gold earlier.
What about this group of people themselves? Who were they? Did you get names, or at least a description?
I don't ask for names if I can avoid it. There was a dragonborn, though. He was wearing quite fine armor, big one with metal plates. He had a mace. There was an elf as well. She was dressed fantastically. The nicest dressed I've ever seen. She said it was part of her beliefs or something. I don't know, but it was a wonderful dress. There was also a dwarf who had a pet ferret. That seemed to be the only thing about him. It was very odd. He seemed totally out of place. And finally, there was a human who also had a pet, though his was a really big dog. I was kind of scared. I said the pets could stay in the room, but they weren't allowed in the tavern.
I've never trusted that ferret lot, but I guess we can have a look around and see if we find any clues. Maybe a diary or something.
Is that a normal thing, Durgus, that you got ferrets as pets?
Well, I mean, it's not. That's why I said it.
Well, fair enough.
So are you guys going to be settling down to try and dig for clues?
I think so.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Get the
Hell
man.
yeah, dude.
Out.
In which case, you can give me either an investigation or a perception, player's choice, from their skills, and we'll see what kind of rolls
Big
we get
rolls.
from everyone.
Big rolls. Look at that.
Big
Let's
rolls.
go. Investigation.
Ooh. Ooh.
Perception.
That all round was a pretty damn good set of rolls. So, Durgus and Barrand, you spot this at the same time. As you all begin to dig through what is there, you very quickly find that a majority of the stuff is basically worthless. It's generic traveling gear, the sort that you perhaps have plenty of. There's little empty pads of parchment. There are kind of strange, almost like wrist-sized sundials. There's just an hourglass, not helpful for much. And you notice that in the things that perhaps you think might be helpful, you do notice there is a journal. It doesn't have a name in it, but there is a journal. The actual important stuff has been removed. The pages from that journal have been ripped out. Eventually, after digging through, as I mentioned, Durgus and Barrand, you managed to spot this at the same time. There is a small scrap of paper that clearly was left behind when someone did rip something out of a book. Checking the paper, or just kind of taking a quick look at it, written in common, there is a simple note that the person intended to meet with Belik Rang.
Did you spell Belik Rang? Sorry.
Belich and then Rang, Wrang.
Lifting up the note and reading it, Barrand would once again head towards the gnomish woman who runs the tavern. Have you heard of a Belik Rang by any chance?
Belik? He's one of the fishermen. Nice enough as they go, but a little bit of a scary sort. He doesn't really like people. I think that's why we get on.
Well, it seems the ones that were staying here were meant to meet him. Do you know where we could find him?
Now, I think he went out early to fish, and given the state of that storm, he would have had to come back. You might still be able to catch him down the docks, or he might be at home, in which case he's just got a small hut down by the waterfront.
Okay, well, I think if you want more information on what happened to the Middle East, that'll be our next bet.
I understand. If you are going to follow this, you are going to have a room, right?
Well, I assume so, but I mean, I don't particularly want to stay in here with this state.
You can have different rooms. You can have different rooms. She nods and points out into the hallway where you can see a couple of other doors.
I'm gonna. Brandon looks over at Geronimo and kind of shrugs.
Geronimo stands up. He seemed to have been digging through a pile of clothes. A pair of briefs sort of cover his head for a moment as he looks around. He goes like, "Hey, turn out the lights!" Oh, and then he kind of pulls off the briefs and throws them off his head. Looks back towards Brandon and goes, "Yeah, I could. I mean, if we wanted to stay in here, I could just take a look at the locks and maybe give him a fix." And he kind of like pats the sort of tinker's belt stuff on around his waist, where all his wrenches and everything kind of tinkle as he does so.
I don't think I could afford you as a locksmith. If you were willing to do it for free.
Yeah, I mean, I could do it if you give us a little bit of a discount. And he kind of winks towards the gnome.
How about this? We work out. He fixes your locks, and we're going to look into this most likely, and we'll consider that payment for the rooms for a short term.
Payment for the rooms and a discount are two very different things. I'd be willing to go half price, but I can't give you the rooms for free.
Very well. Half price then. Does that sound acceptable?
Yes, absolutely. I'll have you split up between some of the other rooms then.
Perfect. That sounds great to me. He kind of gives a thumbs up again.
You guys going to do anything else while you're here?
What time of day is it, roundabouts?
As far as you can tell, you arrived around late morning. It's kind of coming on to midday, though obviously with the weather and the cloud coverage, you can't really tell from the sun. You'd imagine it's still late morning, perhaps just hit noon.
Brannon will gather his things once again and make his way to one of the rooms, whichever one she points towards, and slowly make himself at home for a moment.
Pretty much have free run of the rooms. There's no one else staying here. She kind of gestures at all of the doors, and you can make your way into one of the fairly nasty, what is practically a cell. It's just a cot with space for you to put down your belongings around it, and a little window letting in, well, no light right now.
And as she shows him one of the rooms, he's going to turn around after he places his bag down. Actually, do you mind if I borrow you for just a moment, just for a question of my own?
It's the same towards the gnome.
Says the gnome, yeah.
She looks very confused, but nods her head as she kind of steps in to give you at least a semblance of privacy.
It's no need to be worried about it. It's there's a group that might have come through, and I'm looking for them. A small group of 5. You might know them by the name of the Trail of Ancestors, archaeological group.
Trail of Ancestors. Trail of Ancestors. Well, they're obviously not here now. Where did they go? Do you know?
Well, I received a letter saying that they would be in town, and I'm not sure if they might have stayed here, or maybe you saw them. A dwarf, an elf, a halfling, and 2 humans, 1 male, 1 female.
Rings a bell, but they may not have left it with me. They may have left it with the headman.
Oh, very well. Thank you anyway.
No worries. And with that, she backs out very quickly before turning and basically ensuring the rest of you had gotten to a room.
Jordan was going to unpack, kind of put down his stuff very, very quickly before stepping outside, waiting for everyone to gather up.
And Baron will return to the tavern to pick up his belongings before just kind of throwing them into the room, bringing his axe with him as they make their way back out.
Natara does the same and drops her belongings in the room, although keeping her book with her.
So guys, what's the plan? Where are we going first? We gonna go check out this guy?
I think that's our best bet. We should probably go by the docks, and if not, try and find his house if he's not there.
We might as well,
Great, yeah. Sounds like a plan.
In which case, leaving the tavern, making your way back outside, you are once again buffeted by the downpour of rain, which begins to strike in at you almost immediately. It's uncomfortable, yes, and kind of ruins any semblance of warmth you had been generating. But at the very least, it does seem to be letting up a little bit compared to when you had arrived. The docks are fairly easy to find your way down to. The village is very, very small, and even in the gloom and the rain in your eyes, you can definitely see a couple of small wooden jetties poking out into a slightly gloomier section of the distance. Wandering down, there are a number of boats that are tied up quite almost masterfully, so that they don't sway too much in the rocking waves and the storm that seems to be pounding into the shore. There are a few lone figures, mostly held up tightly in cloaks, pressed into just crevices in buildings, probably those who either have a responsibility that involves looking out to the ocean that they can't forego, or those who just simply don't have homes at all. Behind some of the small hovel doorways, you can see the faint glimmer of lights within.
We're looking specifically for Bellic Rang. She said he was a fisherman. I don't imagine he'd just be stood out here doing nothing.
I wouldn't think he'd do that. Perhaps there's some other houses around we can ask. If he's a fisherman, he's surely a local, right?
That's what I'm thinking.
I believe she said he might have a hut or a house down here, so we can have a look around. I might be mistaken.
Let's go
Be
check.
kind of bad news if he's still out, fishing.
Oh, especially in this weather.
I think with that, Baron will go to approach one of the houses along the waterfront, giving the door at the front a knock.
Give me a 1d5, please. Just random. Ooh, okay. You approach one of the doors at random, hammering on it quite loudly. There's a pause before a fairly gruff voice answers you as the door opens just a crack. What do you want?
We're looking for Belek Rang, a fisherman.
The door opens a crack more so that a face can poke out. Although silhouetted in the light coming from the room behind, you can just make out the fairly broad features of a half-orc with what appears to be a pale green skin and almost a jet black mohawk. His face scrunches up as he goes, and what the fuck do you want with him?
Well, some travellers that stayed in the tavern. We believe they've gone missing, but it's more like they were taken. We believe they were meant to be meeting Belek.
That they were. His eyes scan past you, looking through the gloom before they hone in on the others. Those are ones travelling with you.
They are, yes.
You best come in. And as he says that, he pushes the door open ever so slightly more to allow you entry.
Yeah, and Baron would take a step in, waiting for the others to come in as well.
Geronimo is going to follow swiftly, moving between the people's legs to get inside.
Same
Tara
with
also follow, trying to stay out of the way of Geronimo as he runs ahead like a little child.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm assuming everyone's stepping inside. The hovel is tiny, made up of what appears to be a room and then a space at the back for sleeping. There is only 2 chairs around a very, very small metal wood burner in the corner. Around on the walls and just piled up randomly, there are nets, there are hooks, there are spears, all the paraphernalia one would need to fish in these waters. And then finally behind this curtain, you can just make out the signs of what looks to be like a bedroll and maybe a mat, if you will, that's been built out of different plants and things to make the ground slightly more comfortable. Belek sits himself down in one of the only 2 chairs before going, "I'll offer you dinner, but I didn't have none myself."
That's fine. We've just come off the road, actually. In all honesty, I don't think any of us were expecting investigation this late.
You ain't caught some fish today, eh, Belek?
Went out early. Tried to get out there before the others. Storm came in almost as early as I did, so I had to come back. Scares them away. Not good fishing.
And fishing beside, you didn't kill them, did you?
Who?
Well, I mean, the party.
Oh, no. Your friend said you was following them. What exactly is it you want with them?
Well, we found a note saying they were going to meet you.
And why exactly are you here?
Well, you see, it seems there's been a bit of a mess happening at the inn where they were staying, and, well, they never checked out or anything, and people were a bit concerned, so we thought we'd investigate a little.
It's
Yeah, but
basically
why-
been ransacked and they've gone missing.
Yeah, but why are you here? He points down at the ground.
You're our only clue. We don't know where they went, what happened with them, and the only thing we have is your name.
Yeah, I met with them. Came down and saw me some days ago. Not quite a week. Not yesterday. He shakes his head. They were asking about that decanter, old drinking thing that the pirate had. Said I didn't know much, but they wanted to know where the rumour had come from. I said didn't know that either. But that things have been getting a bit strange around here.
Strange in what sense?
Aye, what you mean?
We're a small community. we used to be a little bit bigger, but at least in my memory, we've always been pretty poor. Frankly, I'm considering packing up and going somewhere else, but it's not much good fishing anywhere else. With that in mind, you'd think whoever's in charge would encourage people to come into town, but that's not been happening.
And who's in charge?
That'd be Argo Blinn. He's the new headsman. They elected him about a month ago, maybe a little bit longer. Ever since he got elected, things have been getting mighty strange. We got gangs that go around at night. Supposed to be keeping trouble at bay, but I'm not so sure I believe that. Anyway, I told the others about this, and they said they was going to go meet Argo, had dinner with him or something. I told them they shouldn't. No good. The guy's in charge of the village. But they said they was going. I think that was the night they vanished, because they were supposed to come and meet me the next day.
Sounds like a... Oh, sorry, Durgus, you go.
I was going to ask if come and meet you to discuss what. I mean, you told them, but you didn't know anything.
I don't know, that's the thing. They just said they wanted to come back and talk after they'd met with the headsman. And so I was like, well, that's fine, just turn over this time, because otherwise I'll be out fishing. And they just never turned up.
Would you know whether or not they actually met the headsman, or is that not really something?
He doesn't tell us his meetings. He's too busy hanging out with that damn tiefling.
Tiefling? Who's this?
Oh, he's Barber. He's got some fancy tiefling from one of the cities come down.
Yeah, just to cut his hair?
Well,
Or like
no.
his
Trim his
maces or
beard.
some. Oh,
He trims his
so he's
beard. Hasn't got
one of
much
them
hair on his
fancy-
head anyway. He is pretty fancy, yeah. Big chap. Eats a lot. A lot of dinners.
Do you think he likes pastries?
Wouldn't know. We're not much of a farming community, so we don't really get pastries.
Oh, you're missing out, pal. They're the best thing ever.
I don't know, I'm quite fond of a fish pie.
Geronimo kind of like looks a little bit, kind of revolted by the idea of fish and pastry put together.
Well, in that case, I suppose our next stop might be the headsman. Well, is there anything else you can tell us?
Go and see him, like I said to those others.
It's fair.
And you know these gangs who go around at night. I mean, what do they do exactly? I mean, have you heard anything? Any rumors?
Oh, as I said, they're supposed to be officially they're militia, meant to keep trouble away. There's been some problems with bandits in the local area, and this militia's supposed to help that, except the bandits don't come into town, so I don't know who they're keeping at bay. As far as I can tell, they're just attacking good folk. Makes everyone a bit wary, a bit scared.
Are any of their victims nearby?
One. Normally when they get attacked, we don't see them anymore. Or if we do, then they're normally in the gang. There's one who's still pretty trussed up.
this militia, are they mercenaries or
No, locals.
locals?
Well, there's not much work here, is there? The headsman offers a little bit of coin. They get to feel big in their boots and get to go around at night.
Well, just beating up innocent people, as you say. Right, well, this one, who exactly are they? I mean, have they fled? Are they alive? They living here still?
Rolt, he's still here. He's not doing very well, though. Breathing through one lung, they say. He's got a little apartment above the provisioners.
Maybe the best thing for us to do is to go straight to this Blinn guy.
You can go see Argo if you want.
Yeah. Get the gang together. Go see him. You know, mano a mano. Nomo a. He kind of gives up halfway through and kind of looks the others.
Well, I know I'm not the sharpest dwarf in the shed, but I mean, if we're just gonna retrace these people's steps, surely we may just end up the same as them, what, disappear and maybe killed.
Well, I doubt going to see the headsman of the town would really lead to that. He's an
Well, that's
official.
what they did.
True, but we don't know anything about their movements after then. They could have disappeared off in the night. I think we should at least go see them. There's no harm in just having a meeting.
Yeah, but you're forgetting one thing. They didn't have a gnome with them, and you do. And he kind of like pats his chest.
And that, the gnomish ways will protect us. He rolls his eyes a
Aye.
little.
And that wren she has.
Yeah,
sure it can be
I can fix
useful.
anything. Kind of nods towards Natara, agreeing with her profusely.
In that
Sorry.
case, I suppose we shouldn't really keep you any longer, Mr. Rang. Should we get going? Maybe see if this Argo will let us see him?
Oh, I'm sure you will.
And I trusted this entire time. I was going to try and ask this earlier, but did he seem particularly truthful as he was going about this, or perhaps was there an air of deception, like perhaps he was withholding something?
You can give me an insight check if you like.
The first insight check.
The
Yeah, let's
first
see.
of many insight checks, I'm sure.
The first of
Let's-
many.
let's see if he's taken.
That's a 20. That's a 20. That's a 20.
There's on that 20.
That's the first nat 20.
From what you can tell, looking at Bellic, he doesn't seem to care enough to deceive you. He clearly seems to believe he's doing you a favor, and in general appears to just be in a very sour, grumpy mood. There doesn't seem to be any signs that he could be deceiving you. There's no anxiety, there's no worry, and looking around, there's no real evidence of things that he might try to hide or would be worth hiding.
Okay. So relatively content with his analysis of this fisherman, he'd simply nod before peering towards the others. He goes, well, so we're going to go to this headsman first, or perhaps the victim?
Why would we see the victim? I don't think that... I know the gangs is a bit of a problem in the area, but I don't want to be solving everyone's issues. We've got our task.
Well, I mean, it may be good to know why exactly they beat him up. I mean, if he's an innocent as they say, well, I'm sure he'd like to tell us why, or how. I mean, the guards haven't given us a very good impression so far.
Have you seen any of the guards? I'm presuming that dwarf that robbed me wasn't exactly one of them.
Well, I imagine he was. As you said, as some sort of militia. And
Hey,
well, if they're willing
perhaps
to
he
rob you,
was.
I imagine they're likely to rob the locals too.
In any case, I think we should at least start with the headsman. Maybe he has an explanation.
Just don't blame me if we end up with our heads on spikes.
Yeah,
Well-
just don't always trust authority, okay?
I'm not just trusting of them, but I don't know. There's a reason he's in charge, at least, so we should at least presume that he's not illicit straight away.
Well, the reason could be that he killed everyone else and now he's the only one left to be in charge. What do we know?
Yeah, exactly. And he kind of like clicks his fingers and points towards Natara.
A little presumptuous, but
Well, I'm just
Look, let-
saying, could be anything.
let's well, if you like, you can stay outside, and if I
Oh, no.
die and my head comes rolling out on the doorsteps, you know what happened.
Well, if that's the case, maybe we need some sort of safe word. Like if you scream pigeons or something, then we know to come running in.
Yeah, pigeons. That's a good safe word.
Pigeon.
Okay. Pigeons. I will remember that.
Right.
Yeah, pigeons plural, not the singular.
Now, you could get that confused very easily.
Yeah, as long as we say pigeons and not pigeon, we'll know. That's the safe word.
Let's get going. I'm gonna look over at Bellic and go, I'm sorry for taking up your time, and then start heading towards the door.
Bellic has just been watching you this entire time, looking semi-disinterested and semi-annoyed at the fact that you're still standing in his very small home.
And just before leaving Barrandal, turn to Bellic. Where do you think we could find the headsman? Does he have some kind of...
You won't be able to miss his house. It's the biggest one in the village. He stands at that, goes to the door, and then kind of curves his arm round, doing his best to avoid sticking his head outside, as he points up to one of the only kind of few buildings that's actually 2 stories in Storia. That one right there. You'll be able to find the door easy enough. He keeps it well lit.
Yeah, and Baron nods to that. You said you hadn't eaten. He'd rummage through some of his kind of stuff in his pockets, I suppose, and would pull free a ration, offering it towards him.
You're mighty kind, he says. There is a drone of... Clearly he doesn't like being patronized, but similarly he still reaches out and takes them and just nods his head in thanks.
Think of it as a token of our thanks.
Yes. Yes. And with that, he slams the door shut.
I think we're just going to head up to the big old house then.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Before we do that, if we take a quick kind of 5-minute break here, I know I need to grab a drink and stuff like that. So, yeah, we'll take a couple of minutes here.
Okay.
Woohoo. Gives me a chance to finish my food.
Absolutely.
Sounds good.
And welcome back, everybody. We are ready to continue our wonderful adventure. We will reconvene, having trudged through the awful rain, to the largest building in town, the headsman's house. It is a veritable mansion compared to the others around it. And the only house or building, it seems, that seems well put together. There's even signs of actual stonework put into here, which is shocking, I know, for this village. All around it, there are a number of alcoves and sconces in which torches have been set up, illuminating what is, in reality, just a very plain box building with a second story and a few planters set into it to make it look nice. When you are the prince amongst paupers, doesn't take a lot. The door at the front of the building is actually open, revealing a sort of waiting corridor, inside which there is a very dirty, grubby carpet, probably for people to walk on with muddy feet, as well as a few small stools that have been pushed back against the wall for people to sit down on. Attempts to liven the place up with fancy artwork and statues of perhaps previous headsmen have been made, but they are very, very poor attempts indeed. The portraits could probably be done better by 5-year-olds, and the sculptures barely represent faces. What's our party going to do?
So
having-
the door.
Sorry, let's go ahead.
So the door's wide open, right? We've just sort of
The
opened
door.
it.
No, the doors are wide open before you get there. The doors are open. There is this kind of plume of light spilling out from this well-lit corridor that is clearly open for people to just step into.
Well, I don't know about you lot, but I'm getting bad vibes from this already. He says, sort of peering around before, almost as if he didn't say it, walking straight into the corridor. You'd sort of eye the strange sort of busts of headsmen, you said, or was it paintings?
No, there's a mixture of paintings and busts.
Okay. Yeah, he sort of eye those quite dubiously as he tries to hone his ears and perhaps listen out for any sound, perhaps, chatter or something man-made within the house.
Not really. It's very quiet. The sound of the rain has become far fainter as you step inside. But it kind of is replaced by just a silence, the gentle crackle of a fire, perhaps the creak of a floorboard every now and again stretching. But you are left in relative quiet. There's no one else here. The only real sign of how to get out of here being at the other end of the corridor, the opposite one to the one you arrived in, there is a much smaller door that is firmly shut.
Hey, anybody else getting haunted house vibes?
Well, Durgus get vibes about everything. Bad vibes, that is. I mean, he thought I was an assassin.
Well, I haven't cleared your name just yet, so don't be having a chat. I mean, you may be working with these.
Oh,
And he sort of
aye.
gestures down the hall.
It's been my secret plot all along.
Well, it may very well be. I mean, leading us here to, get killed or something. No, and he sort of waddles on down the room to the very end where you said there's a closed door, right?
Yes, there is. This is just a standard kind of, single-person door made of a much nicer wood with a brass knocker on and a brass handle.
Okay. And he reaches up, sort of jumping a little bit to try and reach this knocker before giving it 3 firm slaps.
The knocker thuds out and clearly echoes in the large house for a moment. There's a pause as you step back, and then the door opens very swiftly, very efficiently, and a young lad, barely perhaps 14, pokes his head out, his hair straightened and framing his face as he peers out. Yes?
You're pretty young for the headsman, aren't you?
And you're a dwarf. What about it?
I guess, hello? We're here on an official investigation.
He starts giggling. He goes, No, I'm not the headsman. What is it you want?
Well, as I said, we're here on an investigation. We're trying to find the, he sort of reaches up and scratches his head. We'd like to speak to the headsman, please.
Sorry, you were going to say your business? What is it?
Investigation.
Well,
Yeah, of what?
that's not your concern, lad.
I'm the one who's got to report it, so I think it is.
You just say that someone from the officials are here and wants to speak to your boss. Aye.
About a disappearance.
Baron kind of looks over the group. You realise we are speaking to the officials.
Well,
Some travellers have gone missing, and well, we're just trying to find answers, really.
I would like Durgus, please, to make me a persuasion at normal.
For fuck's sake.
No, it was going to be advantage until Baron pointed out that you weren't the
I
officials.
hate you. Oh, they're not good. Unless it's not
15,
not bad.
15's all right. There's a pause before the young boy nods his head and the door shuts quietly behind him, and you can just make out the sound of very light feet thudding away on a wooden floor as you're left alone for a couple of minutes.
Well, I hope he bought it.
What do you mean boarded? It's the truth.
We're not official, are we? I mean, I don't have a badge or
well,
anything.
no, but well, I am kind of, with working for Shade, I guess.
Yeah, your mysterious secret organization.
Aye.
I'm not sure how official that really makes you.
Well, it is official, isn't it?
I'm officially part of a guild of tinkerers, so I guess that's official.
Well, are you like an ex-guard or something? And he sort of gestures towards Baron. I mean, you've got the physique for it.
Not in the slightest. I haven't. Well, I can't really remember the last time I stepped foot in a place like this.
Well, we got to think quick then. You can use your magic, right? Maybe make some sort of badge or something.
Oh, aye,
Make
you
a-
could make an illusion, couldn't you?
Make a fake one. Maybe Geronimo might have a better chance at making a real one.
He kind of looks around and kind of appears at his tinker's tools and kind of taps his head a little bit and goes, I'll think about it.
What do you mean?
whilst-
Think about it?
Well, whilst you are thinking about it, and in the middle of this conversation, there is suddenly a much more rapid approach of louder feet as the door clunks open. The boy opens it fully and says almost breathlessly, "The headsman, he'll see you now. Yes, he would like to see you." Nods his head as he steps back and seems to collect himself as he takes a more formal stance, holding the door open for you to reveal another corridor, though the interior of which is much nicer.
You're right, boy. You seem a bit exasperated.
Gotta work fast.
Fair enough. Where do we go? Just straight through?
He lifts his hand out in a very formal fashion, though not particularly dexterously. So clearly he's not very well practiced at it. As he gestures down this new corridor, straight down there, then take a left when you hit the T-junction, and then you're going to the room straight ahead of you. He'll meet you in there.
Very, very well. Brannon will walk straight through, following his directions.
Yeah, Durgus is going to put his hands on his hips and sort of waltz forwards with the exaggerated exaggerated swagger of a dwarven teen. There you go.
Geronimo's gonna look to the wall, and as everyone else kind of like pieces out, he's gonna take his cigar, kind of stub it out onto the wall, and then kind of put it away for safekeeping.
And there is a very brief flash of worry across the boy's features as his eyes move from straight ahead of him to where you just put your cigar out, and then they move back as his kind of attempt at professionalism takes over again. Nonetheless, you make your way down this new corridor, and as I said, the quality of arrangements becomes much finer. The carpet is now actually made of what looks like fairly good dyed wool. The walls, this time, still rather bare. This isn't exactly a mansio or mansion of the ultra-rich, but now adorned with actually slightly nicer artwork, things that could actually be passed for something you might sell. Additionally, there are different candelabras and ornaments made of brassy metals left on the side to twinkle and glitter. Taking the directions proffered, you would enter into what appeared to be some kind of reception room. Opening it up, it appears like a large office. At one side, there is a bank of windows looking onto the outside on the ground level. You get a view across a kind of triangular courtyard that seems to be fairly well paved, perhaps kind of the busy market area if this place were to ever have a market. The desk is just in front of these windows, and then closer to the door and the side you're on, there are 3 fairly long couches set out in a kind of U shape in front of the desk for, one would assume, supplicants of the headsman to come and make whatever kind of pleads or bargains or deals they intend to make. Around the room, in different frames, there appears to be a number of laws and arrangements and deals that have been signed into law and then framed. Alongside, it seems they've been organized by pictures of the previous headsman. There's a huge number of these. Sitting in the chair for the desk would be an incredibly large man. One could almost describe him as an enormous human thumb. He bulges out in this very garish green and red. You think it might be like a tunic and trousers combo, but frankly, with how he wears it, it could also be a dress. You have no idea. Atop which there seems to be these ribbons and bands adorned with golden and bronze lockets and charms. He wears a very large pair of spectacles, almost like a halfway house between normal glasses and the goggles that you wear, Geronimo. And he is almost entirely hairless. There is just this kind of sprouting of very pale blonde hairs on, I'm going to say his neck, because there is no chin, so to speak, and his eyebrows, which are a similar blonde colour. Everywhere else there is no hair. Standing just behind him is a much taller figure, a tiefling, kind of a deep crimson colour with long flowing black hair that is tied up but then still allowed to drape down over her shoulders. She has these great horns that come down off of the front of her skull, just above her own eyebrows, and she is wearing what appears to be a very fine, very long, flowing maid's dress. In one hand, she's carefully flicking a barber's razor out and in as they both watch all of you enter.
I'm literally just imagining a mix between like the thumbs from Spy Kids and what's the fat dude from Spider-Man?
yeah. Like Wilson Fisk and Thumb-Thumbs.
Yeah, a very good comparison, perhaps.
My favourite villain. Durgus would sort of swagger forwards with this perhaps not faux confidence as he approaches these two rather imposing figures. He'd stand, I imagine, in like the middle of this sort of U-shaped sofa. Go, so, what did you do with them?
Give me the insight very quickly.
Okay. Good job. Oh no, I won't say anything because I'll fuck the roll.
Oh, there's another
Never
one
mind.
there.
I'm gonna fuck it anyway.
You got the three. With a 7, you see them both look surprised, most likely at the brazenness of your statement, before the giant thumb manages to compose himself first and go, I don't know anything of what you could mean.
Brandon will immediately rush in behind and kind of give a light slap on the back of Durgis's head and go, I'm terribly sorry. He's not used to this kind of situation. I'm assuming your manservant told you why we're here?
He said there was business, that you claimed to be authorities, but that also you didn't. I was intrigued.
Well, to get to the point, do you know the mournful wench's respite, the inn in town? There was a party of, well, I guess adventurers would just be what you call them, staying there who've gone missing, and we've been, I suppose, hired to investigate.
His face furrows, like the entire face almost seems to furrow as it seems to fold in with this kind of confused thinking expression. Oh, you mean that lot that were looking for the decanter?
Yes, that would be the ones.
You are hired to look for them.
I suppose that's the best way of putting it.
Who on earth hired you for that?
We don't disclose our partners. Shit, what's the word again?
Employee.
Their name. No, we don't say their name.
Really matter anyway.
How remarkably professional of you. Nonetheless, which authority do you claim you do and don't represent?
Brandon at that stage is going to look a little pale and kind of side-eye towards Natara and go,
Well,
Authority?
I'm from the Studio of Holistic Advancement in Dimensional Exploration.
Bless you.
Natara smiled.
What she said.
Hi, that's where I'm from.
But what did she say? I don't understand.
I said the Studio of Holistic Advancement in
No,
Dimensional
I heard the
Exploration.
words. He quite clearly interrupts and speaks over. I heard the words, but who is that?
SAHDE. You should have heard of them. They're quite a
Aye.
high-ranking authority.
We're
I
also known
haven't.
as Shade.
Give me a persuasion with advantage, Natara.
Persuasion.
As all of us try and bullshit our way through.
Those are some good rolls. 17? A 17. Okay. There's a pause before he nods his head very slowly. I can't say we do much work with them, but very well. You're from Shade. What is exactly you want to know? What's your business here? He taps the desk slightly.
Our business here, as of this moment, is there's somebody gone missing. And it's led us to you that they were last seen here. Wasn't that right, boys, or did I get it wrong?
no, that's quite right.
Yes.
That's
would-
absolutely correct, yeah.
They were
Not
last
necessarily
seen
last-
here.
Yeah, but the mournful wench.
In contact with you. As well as this militia, and whoever comes in contact with them seems to vanish.
You've made two very, very big accusations. With
As you can
regards
see,
to
that is why we are here.
Well, with regards to the party that you're speaking of that vanished, I believe I know who you're talking about. Were they the ones that were here a few days ago?
Yes, they're
Aye.
a dragonborn who apparently was quite well armored, an elf, a dwarf, and a human. Apparently, they might have had a big dog and a ferret with them.
He turns his head as he peers up towards the tiefling and just gestures with one pudgy finger for her to lean down, which she does so, though her eyes remain permanently kind of aimed up towards you. They mutter something between the two of them, and then he nods his head and goes, Felia's right. I do remember them. They were here for dinner as my guest.
Yeah, you didn't eat them, did you?
What? No.
You
Disgusting.
You needed to be reminded that someone was here 2 days ago that you had for your guests. You
I'm a
needed your
remarkable-
assistant.
I'm a remarkably important man in this community. I have dinner with plenty of people, some of them strange, some of them visit, some of them leave, some of them stay here forever. Felia helps me keep things in order.
He doesn't always have. I'm sure the man doesn't have all the time to remember everyone, and he clearly remembers now. So let's calm with the accusations. We're just trying to get information.
What did you tell them? I mean, we've got it from a reliable source that you send them after some sort of fisherman.
He furrows his whole face again as he reaches up and rubs at his neck, feeling the few blonde hairs that are there before frowning. Felia. As he says that, he tips his head back, revealing absolutely no chin whatsoever. And Felia steps forward, flicks out the knife, and in one deft movement opens up a small kind of pot in the other hand, and she begins lathering up this kind of very small amount of foam before beginning to clearly get this little patch of his neck ready to be shaved. No, I didn't send them to meet with any people. They were asking about the decanter. They wanted to get drunk. I can't remember. No, the drowned decanter in that blasted rumor. I informed them that they should head to the drowned library. Sorry, the sunken library. It was once a veritable gold mine and repository of information, stories, science, all that malarkey, when there were still attempts to head east. But, well, times are tough. We're not so rich as we once were. People aren't travelling east as often. And the sea engulfed it. There's still a little way in, just outside the village, but the place is practically submerged. I told them to look there for information.
Wait, there's a library that's just abandoned? That seems rather odd. Did you not move out the books and the information before it's sunk?
Do you know the cost of moving so many books out? We didn't have the money for that. We just let it sink.
I suppose it just seems a shame, is all.
Also requires someone to care.
Very, very well. Do you have anything else that they might have told you, or you told them?
Let's see. We had dinner. They explained why they were here. They went on and on about how positive they felt about their chances. He pauses suddenly as Felia just drags the knife up over his neck, and then he carries on. Then they thanked me for the meal, went and had a good night's rest, I assume, and probably visited the next morning. Or maybe they went that evening, I don't really know.
It's starting to seem like maybe they disappeared in the library. Is there any dangers down there? I mean, other than the water.
I mean, I don't go down there. We don't send anyone down there. It's submerged, at least part of it, we think. Could be there are some sections that haven't been fully filled yet, but he shrugs.
Well, it seems we've got something to go on at least.
So what do you do for law enforcement around here?
I recently put into effect a militia. Volunteers could come here. They could give their credentials, though I'll admit we're not the most rigorous in recruitment. Beggars can't be choosers. And they are then broken up into teams, led by a trusted individual, and there is a rota for them traveling the streets at certain nights, ensuring there are no criminals to be found.
And did you have a big criminal presence before you had this militia?
Big is a relative term. We were not inundated with criminals down every single street and alley. The population's not big enough for that is.
Then
However,
why
there
would
was
you
certainly a... Sorry.
I ask, why would you need a militia if there wasn't much crime?
Because when there's not much crime, the moment one crime is committed, they still want your head. People don't like it when their friends get robbed. People don't like it when they can't travel the streets safe at night. People don't like it when there's problems in their village.
We've had complaints at Shade that the crime rate has recently gone up after this militia has been formed.
I see. Strange reports you'd be receiving, but since I don't know what position Shade holds, I don't know what explanation I owe to you. My power's vested in me by the people who voted me here, and I owe my allegiance to, well...
Do people? Surely.
I suppose you're right, yes, the people. Which is why we create the militia to keep them safe.
And this,
These statistics you have, I don't know where you could have got those numbers.
and this
whatever they may
militia,
be.
they frequently ask new travellers for papers. Is that right?
The papers is a recent law that I put into effect. We were having trouble with some smuggled goods coming in. The perpetrators have been dealt with, though I am wary of strangers coming to town bearing goods or not, and so papers are now required for new travellers.
And what have you
Is that-
told them to do when they do not have papers?
Should be turned away, of course.
She looks over at the wizard, Brennan.
Well, let's just say maybe some of your volunteers are not exactly following orders.
That is disappointing.
Just out of interest, before we probably will leave you be, but we'll see. Would we need these papers to come back into town once we leave, or now that we've made our way, we are considered acceptable?
Should have papers if you've only just arrived. Though if you don't, I suppose some passes could be stamped. Felia? He turns his head. The tiefling again points her head down towards him, but her eyes remain firmly locked on you as a collective. And get them some cards stamped. That'll be fine. She nods her head and opens a desk drawer and begins to stamp out some cards for you.
Thank you. Thank you. And do you want pay for this, or is it fine?
No, just find what happened to those poor folk who came here. It's not good to have visitors vanishing.
Well, possibly it might be worth looking into what's happening with your militia. I'm not sure about reports, but we certainly have heard a few foul rumors.
We'll investigate it. If you don't mind me asking, a question of my own?
Very well.
I just wanted to say, you have a remarkable moustache.
Thank you. Brandon visibly lights up at the mention of it and starts to brush it slightly.
Hey, what do you think about my one? And he kind of Geronimo points to his own.
Lovely, but not quite as unique as his.
While we're talking about hair, you may want to give your barber a bit of advice. That little tuft on your head, just get rid of it. You look a bit like a baby.
His eyes kind of look up. He's almost trying to roll his eyes back into his head to look at his head before he shakes that. Very funny. No, I was asking because it reminds me of some of the styles that some of the wizarding folk from the capital have. You wouldn't happen to be one of them, would you?
Yes, I am indeed. I come from Metaphor, or at least in part. Tullback House, if you've heard of it.
I have. Specifically because we had some visitors a little bit longer ago than that, perhaps 3 weeks. No, maybe not, I'm not sure. We'd have to actually check our diary with that one. Hang on. He begins digging through some drawers before opening one up and pulling out a sealed envelope that has written across it the words Brannon in very neat script that you would recognize.
Yes, I believe that might actually be for me. Would it be a group of 5? They might have gone by the name The Trail of Ancestors.
No, that was it. They had a funny name for their little circus. Yes, it was for you then. Yeah.
Thank you. And he leans out and takes the paper.
It was a rather delicious young lady who left it with me.
He looks a little uncomfortable at that.
Are you sure you didn't eat her?
What? No, we didn't eat her. They chartered a ship, one of the fishing vessels.
Oh, thank you for that. And he takes the letter and places it in a pocket in his breast pocket and says, would it be all right if I possibly come back later for some questions once I've had a chance to read this and maybe investigated what's going on?
If you're willing to make an appointment, then obviously you come back at any time we have that appointment. Otherwise, if you're willing to wait in the waiting room, you can come back whenever you like.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? I turn to the others.
Just one quickly. Just for the report, of course. Your tiefling friend, your barber, I don't imagine you get many of her type around here. What's her story? We just can't let anyone, off the hook. We got to write everything we can down.
As you say this, a little amused smile pops onto Argo's features as he just turns in his chair, peers up at the tiefling, and just sees what she has to say. Her eyes narrow and her face visibly hardens at your question. Delia Tre.
I don't believe that was common.
Delia Tre, she says again, much more forcefully.
Is the latter part your surname?
She nods her head very curtly.
Good. And I take it you're a barber, but do you just work for the village, or you're traveling?
I have a contract with the headsman.
Well,
Right.
that was suitably vague.
Hey, pigeons, guys. Hey, pigeons.
Possibly, yes. Very well. It was lovely meeting you both. I suppose we'll be off, and Brannon will give a little nod, not quite a bow, but respectful nod, and then turn to the others and say, "We should probably leave them."
Aye.
just before they go, Durgus would have a brief glance back towards the tiefling. Does there seem to be anything special about the barber's knife she has?
You can give me a perception at disadvantage? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
5.
An 11. It's pretty nice looking. Like, you're not a barber by trade, but the tool looks well maintained, well used, very functional. An expensive piece, if you know any kind of tradesman's tools. But other than that, nothing else stands out as being special. Certainly no kind of any runes or sigils or signs on it that might suggest it's of a particular make.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, no, relatively content, but they've got what they can for now. Durgus, yeah, he turns and begins to swagger out in the same manner he did before.
Cool. Unless anyone else has anything, I assume you leave and perhaps head to the waiting room where you're not quite in the rain.
Yeah.
Okay, you regather in the waiting room, perhaps to discuss your next steps.
Yeah.
It seems we've got some information at least.
I'm still pretty
I don't
convinced
drop
that
them in the
guy's.
slightest.
Yeah, that guy's definitely eating people. I swear.
Just
don't
because
think
he's larger doesn't mean he's eating them, although I admit he's a bit odd.
A bit.
He's just-
He's very odd.
He's just a bit large, you know, like he's larger than life, kind of eats people, kind of size.
Well,
That's-
first off, Barbara's absolutely a dog. I mean, she has no clue what she's doing. And second off, she's definitely dodgy.
Oh, she's
I mean,
clearly not just a barber. She's clearly some kind of bodyguard or something like that. I mean, the man doesn't even have hair. What's he need a barber for?
Well, he's got a beard, but I mean, we can't really talk about it with you. I mean, he knew about Shade. He may be one of your members.
He did not know anything about Shade. He was faking that.
Yeah, I got that impression as well. Millie
He just
didn't want.
got intimidated by the name and went with it because it sounds official. Well, it is official, but it sounds very official.
Yeah, and it sounds kind of scary, like nothing happy about shadows and shade. And Geronimo shivers at that.
As for her being a barber, I believe she's more than it, but she certainly is shaving him at least. Did you see, like, even in the middle of the meeting, I think it was a
Aye.
single hair.
That's
I,
very weird.
I wished I didn't see it, to be honest.
Hey, well, the knife itself seemed relatively normal. Maybe, expensive, but it's not magical or enchanting or anything. I imagine if there is anything dodgy, it's likely due to her. Which I guess means, well, all we have to do
Well,
now
she
is
said
go
she
to
was
this library.
Under contract. Maybe she's a mercenary.
If I'm honest, the man himself doesn't seem. How do I put it? Evil. He just seems incompetent. The
And
volunteers thing seems like he
careless.
doesn't really know what he's doing.
Aye. Doesn't have any control over it.
Or maybe he's got a dark thing whispering in his ear.
It doesn't seem like it. He'd be hiring mercenaries and the like if that was the case. He's just
Aye.
volunteers, and they seem to be making the most of the situation.
Well, maybe it's whispering to the volunteers as well. I mean, you heard how they're acting.
True.
I get the feeling that Miss Knifey Knife may be doing a bit more than just cutting his hair. Maybe cutting other people's throats.
Perhaps. I mean, the knife is certainly suitable for it. Come in for a quick shave.
That's again. I don't want to assume their bad intent before we have any kind of information. Besides, is it really our position to do anything about it?
Well, not really.
No, I just don't want to die, mate. That's why I said pigeons. She looks scary.
Right. Well, I bet you if we head to this library that there's going to probably be some sort of militia waiting for us there. I mean, he's going to probably send someone after us, surely.
Well, it was a drowned library as well, so how are we going to get to it? It's under the
He
water.
said there was an entrance on land. It did used to be on land, so it's probably just partially submerged. We could have a look, see if that group is there, see if maybe they just got caught.
Said you could exit out just outside of the city.
Let's
Not taking out any of the books. There might be some valuable information in there. How wasteful.
Yeah,
Well-
you can add some more to your collection, Hatsy.
I'm always in looking mood for some literature. But either way, do we want to head there now, or
We may as
Well,
well.
I don't see why not.
Just watch our backs in case, I don't know, you fancy a gnome for dinner. She looks over at Geronimo.
Yeah, Geronimo looks back, kind of had a terrified expression on his face, and he kind of holds up both hands. He goes, "Hey, I don't want to be eaten."
Well, I mean, your nickname is Toast, so, you know.
Yeah, but I'm called Toast for other reasons. That don't mean I want to be butted up and eaten by a fat man.
It's probably because you are toasted to get their hands on you. So I say let's make it hasty and get our way over to that library.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Right, let's be off then.
Okay, as you gather yourselves together and step once more out into the blustering rain, the sunken library, or the entrance to it, is actually a pretty easy location to deduce. There was a point in which you spotted whilst you were down on the docks, in which there was a very out of place, almost set of stone blocks in a rough kind of square that appeared to have some kind of hole in the middle. Wandering down to it, you find it pretty much almost right on the seafront itself, as the rain continues to drop and the thunder continues to sound in the background. Peering down into it, you can see a set of worn stone steps that lead into what appears to be a dark tunnel. Though even from up here, outside of that tunnel, looking down, you can see the tunnel stretches away for a little ways and then drops lower and lower, and as it does so, it fills up more and more with water, so that eventually at the end of the tunnel you see it becomes completely submerged.
Oh, that does not look like a fun journey. We gotta go down in there, you think?
I'll be honest, I don't really want to go swimming already, but then again, I suppose we're wet enough as it is.
Oh, where's your sense of adventure?
Well,
We don't get to do this thing very often.
you go,
And he begins
you
to
go
sort of
first
trudge on
then,
down.
Durgus.
Yeah, no, he's already going. He's he gets his backpack and he sort of puts it to the side so as to not completely submerge it. He sort of like takes off a fur coat, throwing it before sort of looking over himself, taking his axes, throwing those to the sides as well before sort of dipping down to see just how deep this thing was.
You have dark vision, don't you, Durgus?
He does.
Yeah, getting closer and peering down and through, it is difficult to see kind of how far it might go. The water is incredibly dirty and murky, and additionally, with the sun being blocked by storm clouds, it is quite dark down here. Even so, you can see roughly just the different shades in which there is murky water and actual stone that makes up the sides of this tunnel. It seems to stretch down perhaps 20 or 30 feet, and then it seems to rise up, suggesting that this might be a kind of U-shaped kind of drop and rise, and that maybe you won't have to swim too far, though this is just a guess. You could be horribly wrong, and it could just keep going down.
Are there any stones nearby? Like,
It's on the ground? Yeah, absolutely.
Geronimo's going to pick a stone up, and he's going to pull out his wrench. He kind of flips it around in his hands, kind of like you would do if you had like a switchblade or something and you were some sort of like skilled ninja. He then mutters something under his breath and taps the stone, making it shed bright light 5 feet around and then a further 5 feet across dim light as he uses his magical tinkering.
Okay. The stone kind of sits still for a moment, and then eventually it begins to glow this kind of warm yellow light, as if you were holding kind of one of those old light bulbs.
Yeah, I think if we're going to go down there and it's kind of dark, this may help those of you who can't see so good in dark. You know, those who didn't eat them carrots.
Yes, would you mind if I had one of them? I have none of that ability like you do.
Yeah, I was going to give it to you, Etsy, and I was going to give it to Goggles. And he kind of points towards Natara.
I think I might need one as well.
Oh, yeah.
Still can't see in the dark.
I forgot about you, Smallsy, sorry. And then he kind of looks around and picks up 3 more stones. Let me just double check that I can do that. Hold on.
You can use it that many times.
I can? Is that the maximum? I think it is.
I don't know. Double check for me.
Let me double check. You must okay. Though a single object can only bear one property at a time. Max intelligence modifier. Let's see. My modifier is a +3, so yeah, I can do it 3 times. So
There's 3 stones glowing.
yeah, three glowing stones. He hands them to the Humies.
Okay.
Thank
You are
you.
now each clutching a roughly 10-foot torch in the form of a stone.
Very thoughtful of you.
Yeah, I'm pretty intelligent, me. And he kind of like taps his temple.
Well, I don't think a smart man would have to say that, but I mean, I can't make stuff glow, so I can't really talk. But I guess it looks like we just got to have a little swim that way, maybe, 30 feet or something. It should be fine.
Brannon takes off his backpack and detaches his belt full of scrolls and places it within, taking out a small pouch and tying it to his waistband. And he says, "Well, we might as well get going then," and starts to wade into the water a bit, holding this stone.
Okay, so I'll assume you're all kind of stowing extra carry-on somewhere that's relatively dry in the tunnel, and then just waiting and going for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Baron would kind of take one of the belts that he used to fasten his coat round himself, and instead use that to kind of strap his axe onto his back just in case.
Okay, absolutely.
I think Geronimo is going. Sorry, before we go, I think Geronimo from his backpack is going to take a box that seems to be in there, sort of roughly rectangular, about the length of an arm and the width of a hand, sort of like width of, I don't know, sideways, like a box kind of thing you keep something in. He's going to kind of stash it kind of like in the side of his trousers, but he's clearly wanting to make sure it stays with him before he moves in.
Okay. As you splash on into the water, there is the immediate kind of rush of sound and noise and excitement, followed by the crashing, freezing sensation of the water surrounding and then soaking into your boots, then up through your breeches, up to your shirt, and eventually each of you dunks your head under the water as you begin to push on down and through what you hope is just a very shallow pool. Change the music round. There is a strange kind of bubbling stillness as all of you go from the very loud outdoors into the almost silence of being underwater, broken only by the kind of odd thumping and movement of each other in the water. You continue on for 10 or so seconds before those of you who aren't pushing yourselves up begin to feel the ground rising steadily. And eventually each of you pops out, bursting out of the water and managing to drag yourself up onto what appears to be a kind of stone ledge that was once perhaps the frame of a fairly large doorway. The doorway leads into a fairly open, if low-ceilinged chamber, also made of stone. All of the walls are filled with these fairly regular, rectangular cutouts where perhaps books were once stored. At the far end of the room, you can see another opening similar to the one you're standing in or sitting in that leads to another chamber that appears to be filled the same way, though at this distance it's hard to tell. The ground, however, in this chamber that you're on the edge of is completely flooded. From where you are and with the lights that you've got, it looks to be about 1.5 foot deep or so. Suggesting perhaps, like, if you were to go in there, you'd be kind of wading through the water, at least up to your knees, perhaps.
Well, at least we can stand, and suppose this is better than swimming the entire way.
And drowning.
Yeah, it's almost up to my. I'm kind of like wading through it, and it clearly looks like it's sort of like, much higher up on Geronimo's body than everyone else.
Natara's gonna...
That's fine, just keep your items above your head.
Natara's gonna have a little look around, see if there's any vegetation now, some plant life maybe.
Yeah, of course. Give me an investigation check, and given what you're looking for, you can do so with advantage.
Thank you. Didn't help.
Oops.
9. Okay. You peer around. There is definitely vegetation and plant life down here. There's a lot of mosses. There's some kind of strange weeds that's growing up in the cracks. Life has made its way in here and seems to be steadily reclaiming this stone building. However, they just seem to be fairly generic plants. You've got some seaweed, you've got some kind of just normal kind of slimy lichen that appears on any kind of rock surface. There doesn't appear to be anything rather unique or special about the plants down here.
Okay.
Brannon, grabbing his little rock of light, is going to have a look around in the nooks where the books used to be on the side, slowly idling along them, just seeing if there's anything even slightly rotted left that might let them know what section of the library they're in.
There is a great number of what was probably the remains of books still on shelves or knocked over, and some of it even floating, almost completely having fallen apart in the water. However, it has clearly been here some time. Even those books, as far away from the water as possible, are pretty much completely molded and sodden through, falling apart almost as soon as you pick them up. There's no suggestion as to what type of area this part of the library could have been, really.
Don't suppose we're going to find any information, at least here. These are all pretty much done in.
Geronimo is going to look around to see if there's any light sources still left, like any lamps or anything that could possibly be lit.
Give me a perception check.
Okay. Perception. Oh, I have this ticked. No, it doesn't matter.
With a 6, nothing really stands out. You can't spot any kind of light source that would be down here. You can see a couple of kind of sections of the ceiling that have been cut out and probably were where maybe candles once sat or lanterns sat in there, but they are very much empty and most seem to be filled with that slimy dark green lichen.
Yeah, I can't find to see any light sources to make it a bit easier to search, but I don't know. What do you think, Bigsy? Kind of looks towards Durgus at that.
Oh yeah, I think we should be fine. I mean, you got your glowing rocks, and he seems to be focusing quite intently on the water's surface up ahead, almost speaking idly, as he's trying to see if perhaps there's any ripples or maybe signs that the water isn't still and perhaps is home to something else.
Ooh, yeah, you can give me a perception check for that.
Fuck, please be the 8.
14. Okay. I need to check something.
Ooh.
Oh no. Okay. For a moment, you see nothing, and it's difficult to differentiate stuff here because with Natara and Brannon and everyone kind of moving through and doing their own little checks, there's a lot of ripples and movement caused by yourself. However, very briefly, in the flicker of the light reflecting off of water in the other room, past the next doorway, you see the faint ripple of some kind of movement there. It definitely wasn't something that big, probably something in the water, but there was definitely some kind of movement there, that there was something alive in the water in the next room.
I think I see something.
What?
He sort of squints as he leans a bit closer.
What do you mean?
It
What
might
do
just be
you
a fish or something.
A fish?
I mean, well, so just a small ripple up ahead. Just be careful, you know. I mean, there may be some leeches or something in here. Just, and he sort of, he begins to walk forwards now, sort of holding up his belt and trying to drag it and his trousers up as far as he can, so he doesn't get all this stuff wet. So just keep an eye out.
I don't believe anything of substantial size will be around here. I don't think anyone would want
not.
to stay here for too long. And with that, Baron's gonna start kind of looking around the actual floor that they're stepping on, holding the glowing rock relatively close to the water's surface to see if there's anything that would be out of place in a ruined library, I suppose.
And you are staying in the initial room, correct?
For now, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Could you give me an investigation check, please?
Yikes.
You peer down and you're looking at the ground and using that light to the best of your advantage, and it's then that you realize you've never even seen the sea before. Like, how the hell do you know what to look for? What's out of place in a sunken library? You've got no idea. There's definitely lots of rocks on there. It looks like there's kind of the build-up of seaweed in places. Maybe a couple of shells that could be home to some crabs. Is this out of place? You have no idea.
Yeah, and I think with that, he's just going to kind of continue doing it until someone would gesture otherwise, just trying to make himself appear useful at least.
Well, we're not having much luck in here. Shall we go deeper? And just maybe, Durgus, if you could, you seem to have been able to spot any movement. Maybe if you front off a little bit, you've got the good way to see in the dark. I can't see anything.
Yeah, just keep your rocks raised. And he's already now sort of trudging through, walking, he's idly glancing around the walls, but trying to make his way mostly towards the next sort of room.
Stepping up into the next room, you see a room very similar to the one you were just in. The layout is pretty much exactly the same, though this is clearly the end of these rooms in this order. There's not a door on the opposite side. Similarly, the walls are covered in these alcoves and spaces where the fettered remains of old books and tomes lie basically abandoned and undisturbed for however many years this place has been sunk. The one main difference you see is that in the middle of this room, there is a regular kind of square in the water that is far darker than the rest of the water around it.
Oh yeah, he goes to raise a hand as to imply for those behind him to stop. Now, I'm not sure if I'm seeing things I'm just adjusting to the darkness, but that seems pretty daunting down there. And he points towards the big black square. Fancy lobbing one of your rocks in.
It looks a bit out of the ordinary, doesn't it?
Maybe that's why I'm suggesting maybe we could get it illuminated.
Already, Baron would be stepping forward, standing alongside Durgus before just kind of tossing in the glowing rock.
Yeah, it's not a difficult throw. This thing is a fairly large section of the flooring ahead. The rock hits the water with a splosh. There's a spray everywhere, and you can see this kind of faint nimbus of light where the rock begins to sink down. The glow becomes weaker and weaker and weaker as the rock seems to continue sinking far deeper than the floor should be. It doesn't go down 1.5 feet and then stop. It just goes and goes and goes until the light is gone.
Well, that's a bit alarming.
I don't really consider myself a strong swimmer.
Well,
don't.
no, we couldn't go down there, would drown.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other doors in this room at all, or the previous?
Not that you could see.
What else is in this room? Like, is it literally just this? Is it just drowned, and then you have this dark square?
It's the continue of the same. The books are a little bit different. They're in a totally different mess. But actually, what has been placed here was clearly the exact same.
Okay.
Why don't one of us have a look down there? Maybe we can find a quick way up. I mean, we did just drop a stone. It would go all the way down. Maybe there's a way to the side, and then we can see.
Has anyone got any rope on them? We could tie it around someone, and then they just give it a pull when they want to come back up.
What's that attaching your axe to your back?
He just kind of pulls at a belt that is kind of wrapped around his shoulder. This wouldn't be long enough.
Well, maybe someone could hold on to it.
For maybe 2-3 feet, but...
I have a rope of 50 feet in my backpack. That's... Don't we all have
specific.
rope?
No, I left my backpack back at the entrance.
I do have rope, but it's, back at the entrance.
Well, if you've got it, I mean, I'm not going to say no. And he goes now as he sort of raises his hands up like, wrap it around me, I'm ready.
And Natara, she'll take the rope out of her backpack that she clearly hadn't left at the entrance because she didn't hear the memo about it. So she'll take it out and hand it over to Durgus.
Yeah, and he's going to quite awkwardly try to wrap this thing around him a few times before sort of tying it off in a nice little bow. Just so we know, I can't really swim very well. So if I scream and you hear flailing and tugging, just, do your thing.
I don't think it's swimming. Just give it a pull if you need. I'll hold the other end.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, but
just scream pigeons.
He won't be able to. He's
What's
underwater.
with you and pigeons?
That's the safe word. That's
I
how we know
know.
that he's in danger.
Yeah, but why pigeons?
I don't know. Somebody just said it. Whatever. Just pull the rope.
We won't be able to hear him really underwater, so just pull the rope.
Baron would move up to grab the rope attached to Durgus. Grabbing it tightly in both hands, he'd look over to the rest of them. I appreciate that I'm probably a bit bigger than the rest of you, but I might need someone else just in case.
Should we see if we can tie it off to something?
Geronimo steps forward proudly to help Baron with the rope. Kind of like he kind of flexes a little bit, kind of like I'm ready. Although more than likely, probably doesn't look as reliable as Baron.
Yeah, and Baron kind of offers towards Geronimo, the other end of the rope, just giving him a bit of a nod. Jump in whenever you're ready, Durgus. We'll try and keep you, well, as safe as we can up here.
yes.
Nuts.
Just can you give me one of those glowing rocks?
Sure, have mine. And Brandon passes his over.
Yeah, and he take it quite grubbily before slowly sort of wading out into the water. He paused for a second, once more eyeing over the water's surface for the same sort of like blip or ripple he saw before.
No, at least with you wading through, no sign of other things moving there.
Okay, so assuming it's just some sort of fish before, he'd slowly begin to move towards this black square. You could tell dwarves aren't very naturally buoyant as he slowly comes to his shoulders, and he already begins to sort of splash a little bit, but I imagine tries to make his way forwards more and more and more. So yeah, to try and get a better look at this square.
As you get
to the bottom.
As you get to the edge of it, you can find that it just appears to be a very dark section of the floor. Your foot kind of goes towards it, and you can feel there's clearly no floor there whatsoever. It's just a drop. This is clearly some kind of hole in the floor that just drops down to where there's no light, and so there's no ability to see. Even the small rock you're holding cannot penetrate that level of gloom, and the rock that you've dropped clearly has fallen so far that its light cannot penetrate up.
Yeah, okay, so he's going to reach with his hand and sort of clasp it on his nose before dunking his head down alongside the rock to try and peer around and squint to see if he can maybe see through the murk anymore at sort of the area around the square and hopefully further down into it.
As you do so, you obviously immediately get that stinging salt water in your eyes, meaning that you probably couldn't do this for long. Though for the few seconds that you'd managed to be able to keep your eyes open, you'd be able to see that it would appear that the edge of the room has the kind of normal floor, creating a sort of landing, if you will, and that in the center of the room there is a large opening that clearly leads down to what looks like perhaps deeper levels or depths in the library. But by that point your eyes are burning with the salt water and you just have to kind of lift your head up.
Yeah, and he reaches up, just sort of flailing a bit as he goes to try and quite rapidly wipe his eyes with his hands, which I think only seems to achieve getting more salt water in his eyes. He does this for a few moments, spluttering and cursing a bit before finally peering back towards the others. Well, I can... It goes down quite far, and I think there's another way over there that we can go through. He says it, just sort of gesturing off towards the general location where it seems they could sort of go further into the library's depths.
In that case, then, I suppose we've got our way through. Did it look like it was far to the next floor?
Well, I'm not going to check again, but yeah, I think we could make it.
You think?
You think? I mean, I'm not the best swimmer.
Well, I'm not either, but you see me with my rope around my thing, looking down into, well, what the hell?
Oh, I don't mind going, but I'm assuming you're struggling to see down there as well.
Well, it's salt water. I mean, I've got good night vision, but not particularly, water vision.
Water vision.
Well, it hurts.
Well, why don't you borrow one of our lovely goggles that everyone seems to have?
Yeah, wait, don't. I mean, he might stretch mine.
Well, you got about the same size head. Mine would definitely be stretched, so...
Oh, well, hey, what do you mean same size head?
I'm just...
My head's like way smaller than his.
Oh, no, it's not really. It's about the same size.
Jerome's going to look towards Durgus and try and measure the heads between his own one and the dwarf one.
An interesting thing to be doing at this moment. As best you would reckon, between you and Durgus, your head is probably a closer size to Natara's.
Okay, Geronimo kind of having done his little sort of like measurement and stuff and doing his, he goes, no. Durgus, I mean, Bixie's head is not too big. My goggles are going to just spread.
Look, let's just... How about you head down? You can see in the dark a bit, can't you?
Yeah, I can head down. I don't mind. I mean, I'm not the best, but hey, I'm got to be useful, right?
If you could
To
possibly...
be good at swimming, just drop yourself down, see how far you go.
Okay, all right. Hey, can I have one of those stones then?
Durgus has mine. Just try and find another way up, possibly. Don't want you swimming around forever. And also, let's tie the rope around you as well, just in case.
Yeah. Jerome's going to step forward and he's going to shoot both hands up in the air, kind of like he's sort of like a hostage, almost kind of like don't shoot me sort of thing. He's going to let them sort of tie it around his waist.
Yeah, well, Durgus sort of waits back by now and quite awkwardly tries to untie the rope, which I imagine was quite wet and hard as it sort of frictions against itself. But eventually, with it, he sort of goes to try and help tie it around Geronimo's waist. Oh, and I forgot to mention the man-sized leech they got over swimming over there.
Wait, what? Man-sized leech?
Fine.
He's
And
just
then he
pulling
goes
your
and,
leg. If it
this
was,
sort of,
he'd be out of there very quickly.
Okay. And Geronimo at this point is going to pull down his goggles and kind of slap him onto his face. That kind of kind of thing sound as it slaps onto his eyes. Adjusts them kind of briefly and sort of goes, yeah, these are kind of more for making things, but they may work. And what he's gonna do is he's gonna kind of press his hands up against the goggles. With on his one hand he's got the stone, and on the other hand he's got pressing against the goggles, so he can kind of try and make a little bit of a suction cup, so they don't sort of fill up with water immediately. But yeah, and then he's gonna make his way towards the hole.
And as he makes his way towards the hole and takes the first, I would assume, weightless step into the drop, I think we're going to take another break.
Hey.
You tease.
Absolutely. leave them on a cliffhanger. Or
Quite a literal cliffhanger.
A literal cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Jumping into a well. Okay, and welcome back. Thank you, everyone, for sticking with us so far. We cut back now to the action deep in the sunken library as Geronimo takes a little leap of faith as he steps into the abyss and begins to drop into the salty sea water. It immediately rises up, covers over you as you happened before when you dived into the water, and this time you sink, almost like the stone you are clutching. Your work to try and kind of press the goggles in and make them as airtight as you can is semi-effective. The one goggle you're not holding immediately begins to fill with water, and there's this very slow, painful process as that goggle fills up and just begins to basically hold very acidic salt water up against your eye. The other one, which you keep pressed in, stays mostly airtight. Every now and again, a few like kind of spouts of water get in there, but you'll manage to keep that one actually quite open and able to see what's going on around you. With the help of the rock, which you have illuminated, you kind of move it around you and see that you're dropping down what seems to be... You're not really sure. It's almost like this strange porthole, if you will, leading down. It drops for about 15 feet or so before I need you to make me a perception check at advantage because you've got the rock.
Because I've got the rock? Ooh.
Yeah, having the light source is going to give you advantage in this
Yeah,
case.
Dwayne the Rock Johnson is.
Dwayne the Rock Johnson is actually there to catch you.
What a man. What an inspiration. Okay, perception, did you say?
Yes, please.
Cool.
Oof.
That's my nat one. That's the nat one.
Oof,
we
there it is.
avoided it. We avoided it. An 11. Even with an 11, as you're going down, you clearly haven't gotten to the bottom yet, but you notice off to one side a very small square, almost like a vent-sized section that leads into a small crawl space. The reason it catches your attention is because you notice just on the inside of it there are some rusted kind of jutting bars that probably did make up some kind of barrier that was there, and caught on those bars is some kind of very illustrious, glittering, sparkly cloth. It's blue, very deep blue, and definitely looks a lot newer than any of the books or the kind of rancid things you've been finding.
Can Geronimo kind of crawl in and try and get it?
Yeah, you can swim over and try and kind of pull yourself in. Pulling yourself through, you went in this crawl space, and holding the rock up in front of you, you can see it goes on about another 10 feet or so, at which point it opens up into a larger space. You'd have to crawl through into this new space to be able to get there.
Okay. Geronimo's going to try and take the fabric into the sort of hand with the rock and kind of grips them together, and then he's going to peek his head through the sort of, I guess the sort of, was it like there's like the what goes on beyond the bars?
Yes, so there's the tunnel that the bars are set in the front of, where you kind of are, where the fabric was caught. The tunnel goes on for about 10 feet, and then you can see that it expands clearly into a larger space, but because it does so, you can't see because of the perspective that the tunnel forces.
Okay. All right. After doing his little bit of scouting, he's going to kind of crawl back out of the crawl space and pull on the rope whilst kind of making the sort of like bubbling sound, which I guess for him is him saying pigeons.
Okay, there is a sudden tugging on the rope for those of you currently holding it, before, almost like a fart in a bathtub, there is just these kind of plopping bubbles that come up and burst just above the dark space that Geronimo just disappeared into.
Yeah, and feeling the tug on the rope, Baron will quickly try and reel him in as quickly as possible.
Is anyone else holding the rope with you, Baron?
Durgus would be helping.
Durgus is? Oh, collectively your strength is more than enough. Geronimo, you very quickly feel a strong, almost inexorable pull as the rope is used to lift you up and out of the water. Eventually you're able to grab a hold of the ledge, pull yourself up, and just burst out majestically, almost like James Bond in Casino Royale, I think is the film, and wade your way back up to the others, soaked head to toe in this grimy seawater, one eye on the goggle filled up completely with this nasty stuff that's just burning this eye intensely.
As Geronimo kind of emerges Daniel Craig from the water. He
short
sort of
one.
like, yeah, just very short. Well, I mean, he's short, I guess. No, he kind of comes out and he kind of like splutters a little bit, like as the sort of seawater comes out, and he kind of his first thing that he's going to do is he's gonna move his hand from left to right and open up the other goggle with that seawater as it kind of like splurges out. It looks kind of like one eye's got pink eye, as the other one's kind of chill. He then kind of lifts the goggle back onto his head and kind of pants a little bit and looks at the other and goes like, "Hey, I think I found something. Anybody recognize this?" And he kind of puts forward this majestic blue fabric that he found.
Oh, maybe it belongs to that elven woman we were told about with the, fancy dress.
Perhaps.
Yeah, she did apparently have a very extravagant outfit. One moment, and Brandon will reach out to try and take this cloth.
Yeah, Jerome would let him take it.
Okay, and he's going to look over it, see if he can make out what it's made out of. Obviously it's not going to be easy because it's been underwater, but maybe how long it's been here or what it was ripped from.
Okay, I'm going to get 2 tests because that's kind of a couple of things you're looking for.
Yeah.
Firstly, can you give me an investigation check?
That's a 24.
Yeah, with a 24, you would say that this cloth has probably been underwater for a few days. It has started to show the signs of beginning to become worn and faded, but it's only the very, very first signs. This has not been in the water that long.
Okay.
Now, you don't have any kind of like clothes making tools or anything like that, do you?
No.
Tool proficiencies do you have, if any?
Cartography doesn't really help.
That's got nothing to do with that. Okay, you can just give me an intelligence check at disadvantage.
Okay. Ooh.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
How?
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Okay, shockingly enough, this is a particular fabric that you actually recognize. Certainly weaving and clothes making is not a skill that you were ever tutored in, but you do remember some of the fashions from when you were back in the capital, and there was a particular style of dress that utilized cloth very similar to this. It was what's known as shimmer silk. It is essentially a fabric in which there is a process where you kind of layer 3 different silks over the top of each other and imbue the weave with a certain enchantment to create this kind of wonderful, lustrous, almost 3-dimensional flowing effect as the color seems to shift and change. It's very, very expensive. Very, very probably last season, if we were to use fashion terms.
Mm-hmm.
And in particular, it is the favored material for the clothes that belong to the priests of Marxia.
Priests, how do you spell Marxia, sorry?
M-A-R.
Yep.
X-I-A. Marxia.
Okay. He kind of holds this cloth in his hand and looks it over and says, this is definitely our elven lady. This is shimmer silk. But I believe she said she was a cleric or a priest when we were back at the inn.
You know your cloth, then?
It's last season's fabric from the city. I've seen a few ladies and gents wearing this. It's something they like to show off with. It gives a good glittery vibe. It certainly would explain why the lady at the inn thought she looked extravagant. I think it's used by the priests of Marxia. I'm not sure, but yes.
Sounds like people interested in the collective good, I guess.
Didn't they say that she belonged to some kind of order as well?
Definitely something like that, but at least we now know they were definitely here, or at least she was.
They must have went that way too.
Yeah, the tavern keeper said her clothes belonged to some kind of belief, or at least it was dictated by her belief.
No, it's not really dictated, but they tend to wear it a lot. But all I'm saying is it certainly fits the description we got of her.
Yeah, well, I know the way. There seems to be some sort of crawl space we can kind of like maybe move into. It should be easy. There seemed to be some sort of other way through, so if we all go, we may find a new place. Maybe they went that way. Might find them.
Well, I mean, good, but I don't even want to dunk my head beneath the water again.
Maybe they're
Yeah, well,
stuck
we all
down
gotta
there
go.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, it's easy for you two to see. You've got your goggles.
Yeah, well, maybe we can all hold hands and I'll just lead the way.
You're gonna pull us all.
I can't pull, but maybe just I don't know, guide. Come on, use your head.
So we could tie the ropes together with all of us, so we don't get lost. Wouldn't that be a better idea than hold hands? Because we're gonna need those hands.
Okay, yeah, all right, smarty pants. Then we can do that.
Well, you asked for a better idea, and I just gave you one.
Geronimo shrugs. He seems content, despite maligned by a better idea.
Okay, so I assume you're tying you're tying yourselves together using the rope.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, that will work of a couple of minutes at most. You are all tied together and standing at the edge of this deep pit.
Well, I suppose we best jump in, but let's try and be delicate about it.
Geronimo's going to do the same method that he did before, kind of the one goggle trick with the stone.
Natara's gonna pull down her own goggles as well, and holding her own stone.
Okay.
Durgus and firmly close his eyes.
As a collective, then you make your way into the water. Some of you burning one of your eyes, most of you burning both of your eyes. As you semi-blindly fumble your way down, dropping into the gloomy interior and falling. Eventually, the rope going taut as Geronimo, you find it very easy to return to where you saw the opening before and pull yourself through. I would like everyone to give me an acrobatics or athletics, their choice.
Oh, God.
All right,
this
let's
is
see
gonna be
what's
fun.
best. All right, my athletics is a
there
negative
we
one, so
go.
definitely.
Oh, I got a good roll. Okay.
Please don't
Oh,
be
boy.
the two. Please don't be the two.
Oh no.
Damn.
Okay.
Of course, the one leading us is all.
As a party, you all did relatively well, and this had a low DC. So, Geronimo and Brannon, in particular, are noticeably slow, being tied up and trying to navigate themselves through this tunnel, causing those who are ahead of them to become held up at times. Not great when you're, in the water and your lungs are burning for air, and those behind them becoming stuck and having to wait for them to move on. Or those in front of them having to try and pull them along. But eventually you all manage to bungle your way out into the next watery chamber. This one is much shallower. In fact, as you kind of pop out of the tunnel you were crawling through, as you spin, those of you who aren't a dwarf or a gnome, once you start sort of treading water, you can actually feel your feet brushing against the ground. Pushing up, you rise perhaps 10 feet, and your heads burst through the surface into this new chamber. This one is much smaller than the one you were in before. It leads to a ledge in which there's a set of steps leading up to it. At the top of this ledge, there is yet more sections in which there are barrels, in which there are in which there are books, in which there are tomes, in which there are bound papers, again all ruined. But sitting in the middle of these shelves, there is a deep, almost bronze-coloured door, almost like a vault door, with a great spinning wheel on the front. It looks to all of you as if it's shut.
Are we still underwater? We are, aren't we?
You're in the water, but I assumed once you were in the next chamber, you weren't going to just sit at the bottom of it and drown.
Oh, yeah, okay. Fair enough.
I don't know, speak for yourself, Alex. Durgus is going to sort of bust his head. It goes over the water. I don't know what the fuck. Burst his head out of the water, gasping for air as he sort of flails quite madly. He's going to slowly calm himself and peer around, treading water to the best of his abilities, though he seems to be sort of dipping down every now and then. Seeing this set, was it a wheel, you said? Like a
Yeah, so there's a kind of if you think of a bank vault door, that kind of big circular swings out sort of deal. It's one of them, but with a kind of spinning wheel at the front that is the handle, the latch that unlocks the door.
Yeah,
Kind of like what you would find at the top of a submarine.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, and he's going to sort of quite panically swim over towards that, not really caring for the others still tied for him, as he aims to sort of just grab onto the wheel and use it to sort of pull himself out of the water to try and give himself a bit of respite.
Yeah, there is a tugging as he does so, pulling you all towards where he is.
Yeah, Geronimo kind of is pulled out of the water and kind of topples over a little bit as he's tugged by the big old brawny Durgus. He's like, hey, watch it. I almost dropped. And he kind of stops himself halfway as he kind of like holds onto this little sort of box that he's carried with him and kind of like hurriedly sort of like reattaches it to himself and stands up and goes, do we just open the door then?
What to the door?
Say that again. That sounded like dwarvish to me.
What door?
That door.
That thing with the wheelie thing.
Tara points over at the direction.
Yeah, and he's going to turn around. Oh, sorry, I didn't see it. I mean, you can try giving it a bit of a tug, and he says, now doing it as he aims to try and grab the wheel and pulling it quite firmly, sort of planting his feet against the the banky, vaulty door to try and give himself some leverage.
Doing so, you find at first it holds pretty stiff. However, with a loud kind of squeak and groan, the entire wheel turns, and as it does so through that kind of first difficult turn, it then starts to spin much more easily, and you're able to wind it back as you can hear these kind of loud clunking sounds as the door seems to be unlocking, whatever bar holding it currently shut, rolling back until eventually the wheel comes to a stop, as it seems that you fully unlocked the door.
Oh yeah, do you think that was it? I mean, we need to somehow open this thing. I don't know how it's going to work with all the water, but no, Smallsy, you're strong, right?
I suppose so. Yes.
Come on, let's try and get this thing open. I mean, can you touch the ground?
Yeah, no problem. And with that, Barrandel step on forward, grabbing a hold of the door with Durgus waiting for his call.
Yeah, and he's just going to simply try and tug at the door to see if perhaps they can open it with the two of their help.
Could one of you, I'll let you decide, please give me just go athletics check.
I think we both have the same, so it doesn't really matter. Which one do you want to do, Jared? You're doing most of the pulling, I imagine, because you're actually on the floor. I'm just sort of like holding onto it.
Big dude, let's go.
Please don't be the one. For fuck's sake.
With a 6, there is a fantastic groaning and grunting effort as two strong boys do their best to try and pull open a door. However, as the tugging is happening, there is suddenly a kind of squelching sound as Baron adjusts his feet, places one of them inside a patch of kind of murky, dark moss, and just slips and just goes splashing and spluttering into the water, still holding onto the door. Eventually your head coming up quite easily, but the door doesn't seem to shift with just you pulling on it like that.
I don't think that's going to do it.
Natara.
Anyone else have any ideas?
Natara's going to look over at Geronimo. Why don't you try tap it with that magical little wrench you got? Maybe that would do it. You said you could fix anything?
Yeah, I said I can fix stuff. I don't think I can break open doors.
I don't know. Try it.
Geronimo's going to go... He kind of shrugs, but he's going to go over to the door anyway, and he's going to have a little look around it and see if there was any sort of like weak points, or if the hinges were okay, or if anything sort of like that seemed to not be working with it that would sort of make it refuse to open.
You can give me an investigation check with advantage.
Oof, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's go. 21.
It's pretty damn good.
22, sorry.
Roll. From what you can tell, and your understanding of mechanics and tinkering with different things, this door seems to be in actually fairly good condition. Surprisingly so. It's oddly unaffected by the salty atmosphere that is everywhere. The hinges appear to be, whilst not perhaps well oiled, still fully intact. Checking all the seams around the edge, they aren't overly dirty. Additionally, with a roll like that, you also find that you can see a couple of what look like recent scuff marks on the edges of the door next to the frame, suggesting it probably had been opened quite recently.
Geronimo has a little look around. Everyone notices him sort of get out his sort of wrench and there's a bit of his tinker's tools. He kind of pokes things and kind of rubs things with his hand, kind of like licks the door a little bit now and then, kind of makes sort of does a little tasting, kind of obviously clearly like grimaces as it tastes awful. And he kind of like turns around, folds his arms, goes, no, the door seems perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but something I did notice, it has been opened very recently. So, yeah, I think whatever's inside there will probably be who we're looking for.
Well, I'd have to get inside. Come on, we can do this. And he sort of pulls forwards his little hand axe now and aims to sort of move towards the... I'll take it as like an edge where it sort of would open up.
Yeah, there's a very thin edge. It's just a little bit narrower than how you would like stand.
Yeah, and he sort of sticks out his tongue and closes one eye as he quite tries to sort of get the hit right before trying to wedge this hand axe into this little sort of fold, aiming to try and create a bit of a lever he can use where he tries to use the hand axe to sort of try and pry the thing open, if that makes any sense.
Okay. Can Geronimo kind of help guide Durgus here in a sense to kind of where it was quite clear that there were scuff marks of where they'd been opened before? To try and see if they can use a sort of similar approach from what he could see.
Yeah, given what you're doing, I won't need to roll for this. You can eventually jam the current fine honed edge of the hand axe into the gap, especially with Geronimo pointing out exactly where you should probably be working it into. A couple of forceful taps on the back of the hand axe, a little bit kind of jiggling here and there, and eventually you'll get it firmly wedged into the frame between the door and the frame. Sorry.
Yeah, and with it sort of aligned, he'd then try to... sorry, did you say it opened, or is it just like give it a bit of a...
You kind of knocked it in there. You gave it a tap. It's in there, and it's kind of wedged in there, but it's not quite... Yeah, you haven't used it to leave or anything yet.
Okay, yeah. And then he'd sort of splashing with a hand as he raises it up, goes, come on, a big one. Let's try this one again. And he moves round, sort of pressing himself against the wall before taking the sort of, like the upper half of the shaft. Gesturing for him to take the other.
Go grip that shaft.
No idea what was funny about that statement.
Big funny.
Aaron would once again help out Durgus where he needed the assistance.
Okay, Durgus, then, could you give me a athletics check with advantage?
Hell yeah, I can. Fingers crossed.
Oh.
Oh
my god, come on.
That's a 10. Okay.
That is a 10. Two fantastic rolls there. But even with a 10, there is a kind of gentle squeak and popping sound as you manage to get it kind of the first way as it jerks out, the hand axe dropping off into the water as the gap opens up. But then, having got past that first kind of resistance, you are able then to swing the door open. Again, this is a kind of squeaking sound. The hinge is not well oiled, but it opens fairly easily, revealing inside, firstly and most importantly, somewhere that's dry. But secondly, what looks like a small cell. It looks to be about 5 feet along, and perhaps 3 feet wide. And inside of which there is a number of shelves, though rather than filled with destroyed and destitute old manuscripts, this is filled with what looks like preciously preserved paper. It looks intact. It smells old. You have that kind of old, musty book smell, but the paper is definitely dry in there. It all looks intact. The books appear to be still well bound. There's a few gaps in the shelves, but it is filled with complete tomes.
Natara looks quite excited and starts to make her way into the room.
Brannon will follow quite quickly behind. going up to Geronimo as he goes past, saying, "Could I get my stone back? I can't see a thing."
Don't you mean it's my stone? You're just boring it.
Well, yes, but I mean, you can see, right?
Yeah, I can give it to you. I just want to make it clear. This is I made this. Okay, this is property of Geronimo.
Okay, can I borrow your stone again?
Yeah, of course. And he hands it over to Bran.
Thank you. And he'll carry on through to the room with his newly gathered stone.
Yeah, you can all drip all over the place, but you're standing in the room surrounded by books.
Yeah, Durgus is going to pull himself on in quite hastily, doing his best to sort of rinse his furs and stuff, trying his best to sort of de-water himself before quite frantically rubbing his eyes, yelping a bit as he probably rubs in more salt than he got rid of. But finally, he's like, "Oh, well, I guess this is the place. Do you see any of the folk we were after here?" And he quite quickly scans between the bookshelves.
There is no one in that space. There's nobody there. Certainly no one living, and additionally, there is no signs of anyone being dead. There's no skeletons, there's no corpses, and there's no remains of any kind of person.
Brannon's going to look around the room, looking for any symbol of like what section they're in, maybe a signage or something.
Ooh, give me an investigation check.
That's 12.
With a 12, there is a small sign that just simply labels this area as the archive. It's actually above the doorway on the inside of the space as you come through. So you have to kind of turn around and spot it up there.
Archive? I suppose this is where they kept the books that weren't on for use. Maybe they were looking for something a bit more interesting?
Well, they look fairly well preserved, and they also look fairly old. Natara says as she's gonna have a look at some of the books.
Absolutely. Give me an investigation check at advantage. A 17. I mean, there's a lot of books there. Is there a particular kind of sort you're looking for?
Not really. She's just trying to check out as many as she can.
As many as you can. Give me a 1d3.
Got to put the slash in front of it.
Yeah, slash roll 1d3. A 2. Okay. You find a hell of a selection of books. Some of them perhaps more useful than others. There's one titled A Study on Cloud Castles. From what you can see, it's clearly looking into giants and the suggestion that they live in castles in the clouds, something that you as a member of Shade totally disbelieve. Poppycock. There is another one titled Necromancy for Imbeciles. Perhaps of slightly more interest, though as you read it through, you realise that this was probably the hastily jotted scrawlings of some madman trying to make a quick buck. And finally, you discover a treatise titled On the Nature of Fear and Worship in the Natural World.
Ooh. She's gonna open it. Just have a brief glance through it.
I mean, there's a lot there. It's a treatise. If you were to try and draw any kind of meaningful conclusions or analyses, you'd have to sit down and actually have some time to read it.
She looks at the other group. Do you think someone would be upset if I take this?
Well, our delightful headman didn't seem to care, so no, I suppose not.
She nods and then puts it in her backpack.
Well, what do you think they were looking for down here, at least?
Well, whatever it is, they probably made out of it. I mean, I think we'll have better luck trying to find, the thing they took as opposed to, anything else.
Looking at the gaps on the bookshelves, he's going to go up to one of the nearest ones and check around a couple and seeing if there's anywhere that looks maybe like a book's been moved more recently. Maybe there's like dust being moved or something like that.
Interesting enough. You're specific enough that I want you to check. You particularly find that probably the most recently removed books have come from a section that seemed to mostly be made up of journals and accounts, though what those accounts and journals are on seem to vary. Perhaps it's just people's kind of entries in things that are interesting. Give me a 1d10 roll.
7.
Okay. Looking through them, you find just a random one. Appears to be the journal of someone known as Lyria Straggle. Appears to be the journal, from what you can tell flicking through it, of a sailor, a captain, some years ago.
I'm just going to open it up and skim to see if there's any maybe folded pages or it's clearly like a bookmark that someone's put in.
There is indeed a folded page. The entry is fairly short and reads, "I found it. I bloody went and found it, didn't I? They said I was crazy, that I'd never do it, but I did. It has to be it. Now all I need to do is get the thing back to Storia. Who knew it was so damn big? The boat is going to tip at this rate if we get another storm." And I do have a journal entry in Foundry that
Oh, nice.
would be useful.
He's going to read through this and then kind of slap it shut, turn to the others and goes, I think the group were they... he said they were looking for the decanter. Am I right?
That is what we were told, yes.
You don't... Maybe they found a journal of someone actually talking about it.
What have you got there?
They're all journals over here, and this area seems to be where one's moved recently, but this one from the sailor, it's this page at least, I haven't read through all of it, but this one seemed bookmarked, so it seems to be obsessed with finding something and it being rather large. It could be the decanter, but that's being a bit stretched.
What does it say on the next page?
That's a good point, and he flips over to the next page.
The next page seems to be an account of the fact that there was another storm and some of the trials and tribulations that were faced due to the storm. In particular, a certain crewmate who had tried to steal an extra ration of rum and so had been keel-hauled.
Oh, Jesus.
What is that?
Strapped to the front of the ship and then dragged along the water.
Damn. Do they die?
Journal doesn't say.
At least it wasn't dragged under the ship along all the barnacles.
No, yeah, that's the point. That's the point. They are.
Oh, damn.
Oh.
It details some general workings of the ship and apparently a rather gruesome punishment of one particular sailor, but it doesn't say anything about it. You can read through the rest if you want, but I don't think it would reveal much.
You're probably a much faster reader than I am. You may as well keep hold of it.
Does it
I'll
say
have
that
a look
was
at it.
on the ship, or what does it say?
He'll flip through to the very front and kind of look at the first couple of pages, see if it has any names of like a ship or anything.
There's no suggestion of the name of the ship. The front seems to be a collection of, at first, just reports of different goods that were hauled between certain cities and villages whose names you don't recognise.
I think I'll keep it for now, have a look over it later, maybe get something else out of it.
There might be some coordinates or something in there that we could use, some nautical ones.
But it's quite long. I don't want to spend all of my day down here, he says as he looks around.
Bringing this one with me, she points at, gives a thumbs to her backpack.
Hey, this whole library thing's kind of fun and all, but maybe we should actually kind of look for these people.
Yes, maybe try and find anything else of where they might have gone.
Natara's gonna have a look around to see if there's any ways leading out of the library or any way away from it besides where they came from.
Give me an investigation check.
Oh.
Oof.
Oof.
2?
A 2.
You seem to be just in a kind of dead-end room. Only way back seems to be jumping in the water, which perhaps isn't great for the books.
Brannon's going to take off his hat, and it's made out of like a leathery material, as I remember, isn't it?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and he's going to basically place the journal in the center and turn to Natara and go, put the other one in there. I'm going to see if I can maybe wrap it up a bit. This thing has some give to it.
All right. She'll take the book out of her backpack and hand it over to Brennan.
And he's going to take off his sash that he's got and basically try and wrap it round the hat and just fold the brim in and stuff so it kind of seals it up. So maybe it's a little bit more watertight. Not perfect, but it's all he's got.
You can indeed wrap up.
Durgus, meanwhile, is going to look for other signs of these adventurers having come here. Maybe a piece of cloth to the one they've already found, or perhaps areas of dust on the floor which have been moved. Maybe like something's opened, or perhaps they just congregated around and sat and read something.
Another investigation check.
My investigation's awful. Not when
I said your dice rolling isn't. With an 18, you spot two things. Firstly, one of the sets of shelves at the back appears to be sitting in a slight rut, as if there was a couple of channels very faintly carved out of the stone, allowing perhaps for the bookshelf to be moved more easily. Additionally, you also spot another section where it appears dirt and dust has been recently moved when people have taken out or replaced books. This is in fact from an area filled with more like pamphlets or hastily bound sets of parchment rather than full books. And it appears to be collections of interviews taken by medical professionals at some kind of institute. It doesn't state what the institute is or what its purpose was, but it's just a lot of interviews seemingly with patients. In particular, one that seems to have been disturbed but must have been replaced because there is no gap there, is titled An Account on the Bay of Bilge's Massacre.
Yeah, and he's going to reach forwards towards this strange pamphlet, which seems a little disturbed. Pull it out, sort of look over the front before turning away, and sort of offering it and waving it in Natara and Brennan's direction. This one was disturbed as well, I think.
Oh, yes. Natara, do you want to have a look over that one?
Oh, yes, I'll go have a look. Natara, she'll walk over and pick up the book. And then start to flick through it to see if there's any notable pages that's been either folded to be bookmarked or just in general.
There is a bookmarked page, or not bookmarked, there's a folded corner of a page. Flicking to that page, it is part of an interview with someone who is simply identified as SS. The interview being conducted by someone identified as IP. The interview reads, IP says, "Then what happened?" SS responds, "That's when the whole damn sky blew up. I was pulling back on the bow arm, getting ready for another shot." It then marks in brackets, unintelligible. It didn't. Instead, the ship split down the middle with a boom, but no sound came out, just a rush of light and colour, and the sense something big was sitting on your head. Like some great, brackets expletive, cow was squishing it. But it didn't stop with the ship. The light shot up into the sky like, again another mark of unintelligible, until nobody could have seen anything except the, expletive, colours. IP then responds, "What colours were they?" And SS says finally, "What? Oh, the colours, all of them, everywhere, just the colours." And that's the whole page.
Well, this is a bit vague. I'm not really sure how useful it would be. It's about some colours and something basically exploding in a ship or something. Flip the page over.
The next page over seems to be a new interview being conducted.
She looks up at Brannon. What was that you were saying?
It might be why they left it. didn't seem as useful. I mean, if you want to bring it, I can shove it in as well.
We might
At
as well.
worst, I can probably cover the other two with this, and then that one will get wet first.
Aye. Some bit seems like unreadable, but maybe we can figure it out together. What's actually meant to be said here?
Just to quickly note, where I've said unintelligible, it's not that it's written poorly; it's that someone has noted unintelligible. So whoever was someone who was scribing this didn't understand what the patient was saying, and so just noted it as unintelligible.
I thought
The
it
same
was
as
like
same as
smashed or
expletive.
something.
Again, they've clearly sworn, and the person who is scribing it has just put expletive.
Okay.
Name of like the massacre as well.
The account on the Bay of Bilges massacre.
Bay of Bilges massacre.
What would we know about the Bay of Bilges massacre? Is there any sort of like general knowledge?
Other than the Bay of Bilges was where Skane the Black was sunk.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, it might have some valuable information, she says, and hands it over to Brennan.
Brandon will once again kind of shove it into his hat, untying the sash and then redoing it afterwards. He's going to place that book on top of the other two, hopefully, again, giving it another layer, although, again, it's not great.
Oh, and there was this thing over here, and he walks over towards the. You said it's like the slightly skew width sort of bookshelf.
It's not skew if, it's just that where it's sitting, you can see two very faint channels that seem to line up with the bottom frame, as if it could be dragged more easily through them.
Yeah, okay, so he's going. Are there any books on top of it? Like, is it quite heavily laden?
Yeah, it's still, like all the others in here, it's mostly filled with books still.
Yeah, and he's going to quite idly, not paying masses of attention or care for the book's condition, as he sort of just takes them, just sort of plonks them down onto the floor, trying to sort of free this shelf before seeing if he can sort of pull it away.
Give me an athletics check.
Oh baby.
Oh, baby.
Ooh,
Oh,
please be that
baby.
one. Oh, it's not.
Even with a 13, it takes a little bit of working and a little bit of wiggling, but eventually you're able to, with this kind of stone grinding on stone whine, you're able to shift the bookcase bit by bit until it's off to one side, and you can see very clearly that there is some kind of gap or doorway behind this bookshelf. You eventually slide it just enough that it's wide enough for you guys to be able to squeeze through. As you do so, in the gap that you create, you see a face looking out at you.
Hello there. He says, sort of peering towards the face, clearly quite confused and a little bit scared.
As it emerges from the darkness, there is this immediate, rancid, almost slap-your-faced stench. It's like someone who is homeless. It is someone who has not seen a shower or a bath in many weeks, many months even.
There we go.
And this scraggly, thin, almost leathery skinned old man.
Oh,
Here we go.
here he comes.
Here we go.
We're not. No, don't get excited yet.
Stumbles forwards out of the darkness, his body covered in nothing except what looks like a potato sack.
Oh,
There we go.
And yet even through the kind of the large open sleeves and the big hole where his head is poked through, you can see these nasty rolls of almost just flaps of skin just hanging quite loose. His knobbly knuckles and fingers come up in front of his face as he almost seems to be chewing on these incredibly long teeth. As he goes, "What are you doing here?"
Who the
What
hell
am I doing here? I mean, are you okay? How long have you been down here?
is that? Are you a prisoner?
How long? What? No, prisoner? No! What'd you do with my door? He points at the very open vault door.
Hey, pal, you kind of smell.
Yeah, well, you're kind of short.
He's got a point, you know.
Yeah, but I'm a gnome, and he smells. I can't change my height.
Well, it's nice to meet you, a gnome. He sticks his hand out towards you. A small grub kind of crawls down his arm.
Drora's gonna reach forward, take the hand, kind of give it a shake, and go, you can call me Toast.
No, you just said your name's a gnome. And as he
No.
shakes your hand, He puts his other on the other side, shakes it vigorously, and then takes his arm back. And as you look down at your hand, it's covered in this really kind of greasy black, almost like oil paint of just grime and stink.
Yeah, Geronimo's going to look at his hand and then just wipe it off on his dungarees.
Are you okay? I mean, are you hungry? How long have you been
What's
down
I'm
here?
all right. You've just opened my bloody door.
Wait, do you actually live down here?
No, but that's my door.
Why is it your door if you don't live down here? Are you hiding from something?
Well, tell you what. If you buy an ohm, and then you come out here, is that ohm still your ohm?
If you buy a gnome, I wouldn't buy a gnome.
I didn't say
no,
a no.
he
I didn't
said
say your
home.
name. I said
Oh, he said
yeah.
home? Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It seems a bit vague, but I suppose yes.
Yeah, so that's my door. I don't have to live by the door for it to be my door.
You bought that door?
No, but it was an expression, see?
Right. Back to the previous question. How long have you been down here?
Down here?
Yes.
Oh, I never left.
You've been
What?
down here your whole life?
Wait,
I
have you
think-
been down here since it sank?
Oh, when did it sink?
That was years ago.
How many?
I don't know, if I'm honest.
Oh, well, I don't know if I was here when it sank.
How could... I'm at a loss.
Nice to meet you at a loss. He holds out his hand towards you as well.
Brandon is very much not going to take that hand.
He does not look put out by this at all and just kind of brings his hand back and starts scratching under one of the folds of skin.
Not to intrude or anything, but have you noticed another group of people coming through here?
How long ago? We had lots of people here before.
A few days, I think.
ago.
Oh, only a few days.
Aye.
He starts chewing at his gums because as he opens his mouth to do so, you can see he has one tooth, and it's like at the top of his mouth, right at the very back. He then begins wiggling his fingers in the air, almost as if typing on something, as he clearly seems to be stuck trying to do some maths. Yes, I remember a group from a few days ago.
Oh, why? Did you see where they went?
Through this door, and he points over his shoulder down into this dark tunnel.
Oh, what's down there then?
Oh, I don't know.
But you live there.
I don't live here.
You just
No,
said,
he said it was his. He said he doesn't live here.
oh yeah. Nah. He sort of shakes his head in apparent confusion. Right, so, I mean, did you see what they did down there? I mean, do you know?
Well, I assume they walked.
Yes, but I mean, at the end, I mean, are they still down there? Did they come back out?
Oh, they met their end. He shakes his head. He met their end.
Did you eat him like the fat man?
What? I don't see no fat men.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Hey guys,
Oh.
I think he ate him.
What ended them in this case?
Oh, what ends us all?
Well, specifically for them.
Well,
Well,
specifically, I'm not telling.
Oh,
Oh.
well. Can
Well,
I ask
why?
why?
Rules.
Rules.
Yeah,
Well, would a homeless man know about rules?
I'm not homeless. Just because I don't live here, don't mean I'm homeless.
So,
Yeah, certainly look it.
Oh, thank you.
What would happen if we went on the same way?
Say that again. I'm
What
bad
would
at
happen?
hearing.
What would happen if we went down the same way they did?
You get to the end.
You're not going to tell us anything about what's down there, are you?
It's the end, not the end. Or maybe it is the end. I don't know. I haven't looked at you hard enough.
Well, do you want to come with us? I mean, surely you want to get out of here.
I do get out of here all the time.
I thought you said you never leave.
No, I don't.
Right.
It's insane.
I think he.
You know, just
Yeah,
like-
I think he might
You
be
could-
right.
Maybe we should just leave the crazy man to himself and just get on. I mean, we can just move past him, right?
Well, you can move past. As he says that, he sidles out. He's kind of really knobbly knees, his hunched back. He almost comes out like a gremlin, just kind of hunched over, sidling off to one side, and then squatting down where he begins to scratch at a scab on one of his legs.
If he's a gremlin, we're fucked because there's so much water around.
What were you doing down here? I mean, why were you behind that door?
Oh, I really like the books.
But you can't read them when you're on that side, surely.
You saying I can't read?
Well, I mean, I struggle to read, but I can't.
Are you
see
suggesting I can't read? As he says that, he leans forward, opening one of his eyes really wide, and it begins to water and almost quiver in the socket.
not the stone walls, you can't.
I can read however I like.
Well, I'm lost for words, admittedly.
You just said words. You can't be lost for them.
Yeah, that'd be the first time, hey, Bigsy?
I forgot who's who at this point. Right, Mr. Old Man, I really appreciate your niceness in letting you go through your door, but maybe you want to head to the surface. I mean, you could probably do a bit of a bath.
And a meal.
Hey,
When was the last time you ate?
Last time I ate.
Aye.
And again, he goes back to the kind of chewing on his lip, revealing that one lone tooth, again tapping into the sky as he goes through the mental gymnastics of figuring out when he had his last meal. Oh, there was a real good spread a millennia ago.
I'm sorry, what?
Huh?
How long ago?
Millennia?
Millennia.
how long is that again?
As in
Hey guys,
thousands?
he's 100% crazy. He's talking about time and wibbly wobbly stuff. Let's just head on.
Yeah, go! I need to shut my door! He gestures at the big open vault door.
I don't want to leave him. I mean, there could be some strange, crazy cultists down here still we haven't encountered.
It could be annoying strangers opening your doors.
Look, let's just leave the poor man be. Maybe he knows.
Yeah, but if he closes the door, how are we going to get out?
Is there another exit the other way?
It's an end.
Yes, but does it lead above the water?
Well, some say it ends just a new beginning.
Okay.
Natara groans a bit.
Oh, I agree with you, sister. They're morons who say that, and it's an end.
Look, let's just go. We can always push the door open from the other side again.
Yeah, just go. Let me shut my door.
Geronimo's just going to huff and just kind of waddle through. As he does so, he's going to attempt to wipe his sort of dirty hand on the potato rag sack.
Yeah, I think Baron will follow closely behind, kind of guiding Geronimo away like a concerned parent as he would look back at the strange man.
Do you notice, having left it actually for a couple of minutes now in that conversation, that grime's not coming on. You wipe it on the potato sack before Baron can get you away, but it's just not coming off now. You've got this nasty kind of dark stain on your fingers.
Jesus Christ.
I'd be concerned for how you wiped it on your own clothes a moment ago.
Brandon, as he walks past, he actually stops for a moment, turns to the man and goes, actually, I don't know if this is even worth asking. Could we get your name?
Huh?
Your name.
What about it?
What is it?
No.
Oh. Your
It's
name?
no.
It's no. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's no. I mean, no, it's yeah. But yeah, no, yeah.
Brandon's just gonna leave.
You at least have any family left. I mean, people could be worried about you.
Yes and no.
I mean, up there, up top. I mean, daughters, wives,
Up there?
husbands.
As he points upwards, he puts his hand over his heart. Up there. Oh. All my family's up there.
Who are your family?
Who's not my family?
I'm not part of your family.
Let me take a good look at you. And he leans forward, as if adjusting his spectacles, and squints really hard at you. You look like family.
What?
Sorry, did I stutter? You look like family.
Which clan are you from?
What clan? No, I don't have no clan.
Look, I think he's a bit crazy. Let's just leave him be.
Clearly got a bit of a screw loose. Let's go on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
guys,
go on.
My hand's a bit dirty and it won't come off.
We can wash it.
Oh,
when we
you
get
need to. No, you need to soak that.
In what? Hey, you put it on me. How do I get it off?
Rice wine's pretty good.
rice wine.
Okay. Rice wine. Does Jensen know something I don't right now?
That was Jared laughing. I have no
Was that
clue.
Jared?
Just, he's a certain character I've definitely missed.
Right. Anyway, let's just leave the insanity to himself, and then see if we can find these. Well, I assume they're dead by what he says, but can we really trust him?
We clearly
I
cannot.
don't think
I'll
so.
say we just carry on.
Don't know if we can.
Yeah, come on, guys. Follow me. I'll lead the way. And Geronimo's going to kind of charge forward, leading the way down the tunnel.
Charge.
Charge in the sense that
Not a
he only has a
charge.
25 movement speed. So
Arms behind him.
yeah, it's kind
Canter.
of a canter. Yeah.
That's fine. As you depart, you can see just over your shoulder the rapidly diminishing form of the old man who becomes lost in the darkness eventually. The last sight you have of him is him kind of half bent over, waggling this very bony arse, which is just showing out from underneath his potato sack, as he holds his hands up as if through either great force of will or some unknown power, he is about to shut the door from the inside. Going down the tunnel, you enjoy what is the first extended period of being somewhere that is dry, somewhere that is safe, somewhere that is not at all underwater. Though it is incredibly claustrophobic, the tunnel is very tight, barely wide enough for one of you to stand without having to turn side on. And as you continue on further and further, the ceiling becomes lower and lower, getting to the point in which it is only just taller than Geronimo himself, forcing most of you to kneel down and kind of scrabble along on the ground. You are moving through for perhaps 5 minutes in this enclosed darkness before eventually coming to a fairly rickety kind of stick and rope ladder that appears to lead up towards, well, you can't really tell, it just disappears into darkness.
Hey, guys! It seems like there's like a real end. I'm kind of a bit scared.
Of course, there's
Well,
an
at
end.
least
There's a
it's-
corridor, tunnel. Of course, it'll end somewhere.
Yeah,
Plus,
but the crazy sack man was like, "This is where you go, and there's an end, and it's all dark, and I can't see anything."
well, at least this is leading up and hopefully out.
I mean, it can't be that bad, surely. I mean, I'll go first if you want.
No. I need I need to make sure I'm making all my make my parents proud. I gotta strive forward for all gnome kind. And as he says so, he's gonna suck up a lot of air and kind of bulge out his chest like a lion-hearted gnome. And he's gonna take a few steps towards the darkness.
Clambering up the ladder and clutching the shiny rock in one hand, you begin to illuminate the way ahead of you, and utilizing that with your dark vision, you slowly clamber up this creaky wooden rickety ladder. The edges of the tunnel that were kind of hewn and worked stone begin to change into natural smooth rock, and slowly but surely the silence of the tunnel is very soon replaced by the rapid patter and thunder of the rain from earlier. Eventually, you approach what seems to be the top, and you can faintly make out around the edge cracks that seem to have some kind of dim light showing through, and definitely above you, you can hear the sound of the rain and thunder.
Hey guys! I can hear the outside. There seems to be some sort of way up and out.
Oh, well, surely if this can't be it, and we didn't find anyone.
Maybe it leads to a sort of different place outside in the city
Aye.
or town.
Perhaps they're up there somewhere.
Geronimo's going to push up the ladder and push towards where the cracks of light is. Going to see if he make his way out.
Even at a push, you definitely feel it shift as if this thing is definitely able to be moved. However, you feel that there is some kind of heavy weight on top of it.
Guys, I can't seem to shift it. There may be some rock or something. And
Just give it more of a push.
Yeah, why don't you try, Bigsy? Maybe you and Smallsy can do something.
You say this over your shoulder down a ladder, in which there is no room to maneuver around each other.
No, Geronimo does a big brain 5-head idea and then looks to his sort of situation and kind of shakes his head and goes, I guess I've got to give it another try then. And he's going to try and push it one more time.
With your strength, it's not moving.
No.
Doing it now is going to reach up. Don't mind. Just I'll help push. Just keep your arm straight as he aims to sort of plant one of his hands against Geronimo's butt and aims to push up as much as he can to try and help with the endeavor.
As he does so, Geronimo's own body seems to kind of just like crumple a little bit, and he's just sort of like pushed up, like so his like shoulders into it. His hands aren't even on it anymore. There's no way he could like stop Durgus from pushing. He's just like a crumpled mess up against this thing. But he's trying to push himself somehow.
Okay, Durgus, give me a strength check. Just a strength. Roll a new character. Character was crushed against ceiling.
Oh, for God's sake.
6.
Oh, the 6.
So there is an embarrassing kind of oof-ing sound as the air is pushed out of Geronimo, followed by possibly a pained squeaking as Durgus basically just lifts Geronimo up, who, as said, crumples, and then just begins to squeeze him up against the ceiling. Not one to be bested by a silly rock above his head, Durgus continues to push and squeeze, despite perhaps continued and growing aggravation on the part of Geronimo, until eventually Durgus has to admit that he cannot do it alone like this. Releases Geronimo, who has basically spent 30 seconds to a minute being crushed up against a rock-solid wall.
Geronimo kind of comes down like wheezing, going like, I can't breathe. Oh,
You all right?
Look,
there?
should we just...
Everyone get down.
Yes, let's just climb down and then one of you go up after.
it seems like an awful waste of time.
Oh no! We can, first off, sorry, Geronimo. I thought it would open. Just take this, and he takes his hand axe once more and aims to pass it up to him. Can you at least sort of, like wedge it into the thing? Use some sort of leverage.
I mean, I just almost got cream crackered.
It's fine. You have left.
Okay, I'll give it a try, but I genuinely believe that Hatsy's got the best idea, and he's gonna.
You need to begin with, to be honest.
He's gonna take the hand axe and he's gonna try and wedge it, I guess.
Give me a 1d20 roll. This is like kind of a luck thing rather than
Okay, luck. Go on.
just a d20.
Roll 1d20. Come on, baby. I rolled a 16.
16.
Okay. So misled by Durgus on how levers work. If you're pushing something upwards and outwards, you don't put the lever on the inside because that will try and pull it inwards. So as you jam it in there and you think it's fairly secure and safe, you let go, and immediately there is a grinding as it sounds like it's about to drop out and fall down towards your companions. You are quick enough and nimble enough to grab the axe before it's able to do this. But having had some engineering training yourself, Geronimo, you realise that that's not how you use a lever. You don't try and lever something inwards.
Yeah, Geronimo noticing this and obviously using his keen engineering knowledge that Jake definitely doesn't have IRL. He kind of looks down towards Douglas and goes, "Hey, Biggsy, it ain't gonna work, man. This thing's gonna shift off and hit the rest of us. I think we're gonna have to go down again."
Then just bloody hack at it. I've had enough stone on your butt.
Bannon is going to start slowly climbing down and just go, please, can we just go down and go up again? This isn't working.
Geronimo's going to kind of like lightly tap Durgus in the face with his foot, just kind of like to kind of suggest that they should move down.
Why don't
Kind
we
of prod
have
him.
Baron try to do it? I mean, he's the big burly man of the lot here.
Yeah,
Like-
Smallsy should.
Likely
Makes
caught
sense,
between
rather.
Geronimo and Durgus. Baron is just waiting for one of the move.
Right,
Yeah.
let's go on down.
Okay, Lutara's going to start climbing down as well.
Yeah, Geronimo's going to go after everyone else start moving down. Obviously, he give Durgus his hand axe back, of course.
Okay, so you're moving down to reorganize. What is the new order going up the ladder?
I think Baron is going up first.
Yeah.
Followed by Durgus. Geronimo will be last.
New order climbs the ladder. What are you going to try and do?
Push it! Push it!
Push it real good.
Push it real. I'm gonna do the same butt tactic as before.
Don't do
The same butt
Butt
tactic.
tactic.
Are you going to actually attempt the butt tactic or no?
Oh, Durgus is okay. We're gonna move this. shit.
Okay.
I don't know what Baron's gonna
Could
do.
you, Barrett? Could you give me an athletics check with disadvantage?
Butt tactic doesn't work.
Oh!
Oh, baby. 22.
So, Baron, you immediately throw your back into it, shoulder up, pushing as hard as you can. You think back to your days in which you were hauling lumber, in which you were carrying goats, in which you were ploughing fields, and this is work you understand. This is manual labor. This is strength and might versus whatever the hell you're up against. And you feel the stone begin to shift as you also begin to feel Durgus's shoulder now kind of cupping your bum as he positions himself to almost push up behind you, almost like a scrum in rugby. It's really uncomfortable and it's kind of distracting and not at all helpful as he begins to lift you up, which just takes your feet off of the ladder and away from your purchase. You end up kicking out and down and finding just enough purchase to eventually tip whatever is on top of this panel far enough that you hear it tumble. The panel bursts open and rain immediately begins to spatter down on top of your head as you can pull yourself up. But yeah, Durgus was doing nothing to help you there.
Yeah, and Baron will very quickly, as soon as the gates have opened, he'll rush up the ladder, trying to get as far away from Durgus as possible.
Durgus and his damnable butt tactics.
But tactics just didn't work this time. As you climb up to the top, Baron, you find that you are actually on a small kind of hill just outside of the village, perhaps a few hundred meters north of where you recognize the entrance to the sunken library. The actual thing you seem to have come out of appears to be a kind of rough stone pedestal from the outside, although you've popped the top off and out of it, so it's raised up away from where the water collects. And looking to one side, you see that there is there's a medium-sized statuette made of stone that appears to be in the form of kind of one of those, those classical Venus caught without her top on statues.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those has basically been shifted and dislodged from above it and has now fallen over and shattered.
And not really taking too much thought to the damage caused, Baron kind of just leans down towards the kind of manhole that he had just climbed out of. There's not much up here, you should be fine to come up.
Yeah, and Durgus would scramble up out of the hole, sort of like dusting himself off, only to very quickly be covered in rain. Well, it's a little successful. Sorry for the butt grabbing, by the way.
Well, next time we try something like this, why don't we have Brennan go first next time? Baron,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm mixing the names.
I just wanted to be the leader for once, you know. I'm always the follower. I just want to be a stalwart member of the group.
Hi,
Well, we'll take our turns, I imagine.
Yeah, I just next time don't touch my butt, okay?
Well, I'm sorry, but you weren't going to do it by yourself.
But I don't think you helped.
Well, I'm sorry, but the me pushing probably did more than you pushing, even if you got a little, squished.
All I'm going to say is this bud is reserved for one particular gnome. Okay.
Oh, and who's that?
What's their name?
Never you mind. Never you mind. That's for me in my private times. And he kind of taps his head.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
In the meantime, Baron's gonna kind of try and look over the statue that was knocked over. Would he have any kind of recollection of the deities, or would he have been kind of shut off from all that where he was from?
You would have an awareness of some of the pantheon of gods and divinities that exist within my universe. Feel free to give me a religion check, though you would need to give it a disadvantage.
Yeah, that's fine. Oh, 9.
With an 8, because it's
Oh
disadvantage.
yeah, disadvantage.
With an 8, it's on the tip of your tongue. You can't quite remember which one this might be. You think it's one of the elven ones. In fact, you look down at kind of the shattered remains and you see a couple of things that could probably be pointed ears and reckon this is probably one of the elven divinities, though who the hell that could be, anybody's guess.
Yeah, he kind of just shrugs it off as probably just some god that's angry at him for knocking over a fancy statue.
Durgus would try to use his knowledge of stoneworking to try and see if it looked like the statue was destroyed by nature or perhaps by, like people trying to rip it down.
You don't even need to take a check. It looks like it toppled off of the thing that Baron's just opened, fell over and broke. Like you just broke
shit,
it
okay.
right now.
Oh, fuck, okay, shit, that's different then. Oh god, we're awful. We've incited the wrath of the gods. You
Yeah,
walk
actually,
around
yeah.
it and you go, well, that's definitely broken. It's, what, some sort of noble or something?
I don't really care for it. Whatever it is, they shouldn't have left it there.
Looking around the room we're in, what does it? Is this like?
You're not in a room. You're in the open. You're on top of.
Oh
a
yeah,
small-
sorry.
you're
Looking
on
around
top-
like there.
Mhm.
Where are we? Do I recognise the part of the town? Are
You're
we
a
in
few.
town?
You're a few hundred meters just outside town. You're
Okay.
You're within sight of the shorefront. The weather continues to lighten. The rain is still there, but it's less oppressive. The thunder has mostly stopped. The storm seems to have rolled mostly out over the sea, and you can see these nasty black clouds very, very slowly receding away from Storia.
Just a thought. I don't believe that group would have come through this way, or at least if they did, they would have been the ones to put that statue there, which seems a bit odd.
Well, perhaps they did, trying to cover their tracks.
It seems more
Maybe
like
they didn't want the crazy man to follow them.
Why?
that almost actually feels more accurate.
Maybe they were also scared that he was going to eat them. She says, and
Yeah,
looks at
yeah, yeah.
Geronimo.
Yeah, and Geronimo clicks his fingers and points at Natara and goes, yeah, exactly. Gago's got her right. He is a mass eater.
Latara is clearly being sarcastic.
Could everyone give me a wisdom saving throw?
Oh God!
I am
To
proficient.
see if we take, psychic
We take
damage
it.
from what Geronimo just said.
Religious damage
Oh,
for
wow.
destroying a statue.
Saving throw. Is this magical, by the way?
9.
This would be yes.
I have advantage on it.
I also have advantage on it.
9, 21, 18. Do you get magical
Yeah, I do.
resistance as a known? Okay. 17,
You have advantage on all intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws against magic.
Cool. 24, 17, 13, 21, 9. So, Baron, you are the only one to hear this, but very, very faintly, in the back of your mind, almost like a whisper, you hear a very familiar voice go, "Did you just break my statue?"
Hearing that, Aaron kind of grabs at his ears and twitches. Did anyone? He's here somewhere.
Who?
What are you talking about?
Who's
The,
here?
the strange man in the library.
I don't hear anything.
I didn't hear anything either.
Brandon's
Dude.
going to go up to the hole that we just crawled out of and have a look down, see if he can spot anyone.
Yeah, Durgus would do the same.
Staring down the little tunnel downwards, you see nothing.
You sure? It seems a bit unlikely that he would have been able to go all the way around the other way and back here.
There's probably nothing. Just tiredness from travels, and we've been out and about for quite a while.
Look, let's collect our stuff, maybe go back to the room and rethink what we're doing.
Yeah, but maybe they came this way. Maybe there's like some tracks on the ground, and Geronimo's going to kind of look around and see if he can see any like tracks that are leading away from the spot.
Give me a survival check.
Fuck.
Survival?
I was going to help him. I was going to try.
Checking for tracks? Yeah, that's survival.
Yeah.
Fuck me.
Well,
12.
You check around, and you can definitely see that there is a fairly well-worn track in the grass that seems to lead down to the town. This isn't just like a set of tracks for you to follow. This is clearly a kind of pathway that has been created by just, over time, lots of people walking the same way to get to where you are.
Okay. Geronimo kind of like finds the pathway and goes, "Hey, I think I found the beaten track. That's clearly where they go back to town if we want to go that way."
If it heads back to town, we may as well follow it.
No, we might just find something, but maybe someone saw them. I think at this point, unless there's another way down there, I don't see where else they could have gone.
Yeah, Geronimo shrugs. He doesn't seem to have any other idea either.
That seems like an agreement to head back to town and start asking strangers things.
Yeah.
A classic move.
Are we that far from where we went in?
Nope.
Okay, so Brandon would head via the entrance just to grab his stuff again.
Yeah, of course you can. You can all recollect your backpacks, those of you who dropped them off at the entranceway. They are exactly where you left them, untouched.
Natara
Geronimo's going to take... Oh, sorry.
No, it's just... Natara looks over at Brannon. Brannon, how's the books looking? Are they alright, or did they get damaged?
To be fair, I doubt it with just the rain. We'll check when we get in. I don't want to unwrap them now and get them wet. So
sensible.
And he'll place the whole package he's got into his rucksack when he gets it.
Yeah, of course.
Geronimo's going to transfer the case that he's been carrying with him, sort of like very conspicuously back into his backpack, and kind of seals it up.
Yeah, of course. Easy enough done.
Okay.
Baron's going to once again pick up the large fur coat, wrapping himself back up in it.
And that probably makes you feel pretty damn good, since it's the one part of you that's currently dry. But you guys can all recollect your things, you can redress yourselves, you can re-dry yourselves, or as much as you can, before stepping out into the slowly diminishing patter of rain that hangs over Storia. Whereabouts are you going to? Just going to knock on random doors? You're going to wander to a particular building?
As we're going back into town, is there anywhere that, in particular, following this path that is going back, is there anywhere that overlooks it that might look like it's maybe more busy? Maybe not just a home, like a store or something like that?
No, this all looks like pretty poor hovels and houses and homes. The only store that you will have recognised was actually something you saw when you came into town on the back of Striko's wagon. And the path that has been trodden in the grass goes nowhere near that store. You could go to the store, but it's definitely in a different part of the village.
I think it's probably best if we head back to the inn and maybe discuss this before we start knocking on random people's doors.
At least we could identify that cloth Geronimo found.
Well, we have an
don't-
idea,
don't-
but yeah.
Don't you think that we're kind of letting the trail go cold? Feel like we hit a dead end.
Well, we
It's
did,
already
didn't
been a
we,
couple of
though?
days.
Perhaps somebody knew that they were going to the library. Well, I don't know, the fat man seemed to know.
Yeah, well, he seemed to know that they were going there, but he didn't know much else. And yeah, about with the trail going cold, I mean, unless the only option we have is just knocking on everyone's door, and frankly, it doesn't lead to much. At least we've got these books and something to go on.
Aye. We can have a look through the books, maybe find something useful, other than what we've already found.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. Yeah. I just think that maybe we missed something. I don't know. I'm just a gnome. I can't see that far.
And I think Brandon at that stage is going to start heading back to the inn.
Are you guys going with young Brennan?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Returning to the inn, you are greeted with a dour and gloomy reception. The lady gnome who runs the place seems to have finished with her tidying, as she is once again standing on the counter with the rags tied around her feet, dusting and cleaning it off as she goes. She peers up at you as you come in and gives you a kind of friendly little wave, as she then points towards the large cask of ale with a questioning look.
Oh, well, sorry for taking so long. We've been chasing it up. If I'm honest, we haven't had much luck, but we're still working on it.
Sighs, almost entirely audibly, in fact, before going, "Yes, but would you like a drink?"
Oh, yes, most definitely. And also, could we get a seat by the fire? We're all pretty sodden through.
Aye, we have to go through the sunken library and, well, it's kind of wet.
Give me a perception check, everybody.
Oh.
Perception.
Show me.
6.
Blind.
Oops. I rolled twice by accident.
That's fine. We'll take your first one. So
20.
Brannon and Geronimo. When Natara says this, you notice out of the corner of your eye as two of the individuals, a dwarf and a half-orc, look at each other when you mention having been in the sunken library. And whilst trying to remain as unobtrusive as possible, though you did spot them, one of them immediately begins starting to try and down their drink as quickly as possible. Even so, the gnome looks over to the still fairly grim-looking fireplace and goes, yes, I suppose I could stoke it up. Need to get some firewood from outside in the shed. Yeah, of course. Pull up some stools in front of it and I'll get that now. And she hops down, takes off the rags and makes for the door that you have all just piled in through.
As she kind of walks off, Geronimo is going to elbow Brannon's shin, or I guess his thigh. Maybe is probably more accurate. And kind of sort of like leans up a little bit, kind of with his hand sort of cupped in, and goes like, "Hey, Hatsy, did you see those two guys that kind of downed their drinks? And they kind of like looked a little bit shifty when Goggles mentioned the old Duncan Temple."
Yeah, I think we should definitely go talk to them. Maybe, I don't know. They definitely know something.
Yeah, for sure. Do you want to? Do we go now or what?
I'm worried with them downing their drinks. They're probably making off to leave. We should probably catch them while we're here.
All right. So am I like bad cop and you're good cop or what?
What?
Am I the good guard and you the bad guard, or am I the bad guard and you the good guard? You know, like interrogation kind of thing.
I think maybe I'll be the good guard. I'll walk up and I'll merely ask politely, and then if it turns a bit sour, then we can see what we do.
Yeah, I'll bonk them if they do something crazy. Okay.
Yeah, bonk them. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, they'll get bonked.
And Brandon will walk up to these two, and he's going to be quite confident. Walk up, standing tall, and stand in front of them. Go, Excuse me. Do you know anything about the library?
The half-orc would immediately look down at his drink, which only had the few dregs remaining, and just stare at them, whilst the dwarf would hold up a finger as if to say wait, whilst he suddenly slowed down his drinking so that he was barely sipping. And you would be left there for, well, how long? In silence.
Can you hear me? It seems a bit rude to just kind of ignore me.
Of course we can hear you, says the orc.
So, would you mind answering the question?
Yep.
Well,
I said yep.
okay. You seem like you know something about the situation. I'm not sure if you heard, but there was a group of people that disappeared recently, and we're trying to see what happened to them. Would you know anything?
Sounds dangerous. The dwarf, meanwhile, has still got his finger up and has slowed right down. His drink is now barely moving as he just barely sips at it.
Geronimo's gonna lean over towards the dwarf and kind of put his finger at the bottom end of the mug and then tip it up to kind of help it go down. But then quite more and if he didn't drink it would kind of splosh out. Oh, he privately rolled. No, this is bad news.
Oh.
Let's check what your AC is.
Oh, Jesus.
Uh-oh.
Geronimo's about to get one shot.
I'm about to get one banged.
One punch man.
Yeah.
One punch. As you do so, as you reach out towards the drink, you put your finger on it. The dwarf suddenly strikes out with the drink to try and club you around the side of the head with it. You manage to back away, kind of that instinctual reverse away, and so you avoid being clobbered. But as you do so, the dwarf points at you aggressively and goes, "Oi! Don't touch a dwarf's drink!" And he stares daggers at you as everyone else in the tavern is now staring at this confrontation.
Oh,
Seeing
okay.
the dwarf swing for Geronimo, Baron would step up. I guess trying to kind of maybe pin the dwarf to the table.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh, no.
Here we go then.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Why?
You need to give me an athletics check.
Oh no!
I
10.
said 10.
Oh,
Why?
It's so doomed.
This was not a confrontation I was expecting to happen.
Why?
He's threatening Geronimo.
And with his dice roll, as you kind of reach forward to try and grab his arms, he flips his out and strikes yours away so you can't grab a hold of him. What do you think you're doing? He grabbed my drink, I knocked him away. Get your hands off me.
Alright, everyone bloody stop, he says as he sort of raises both hands, trying to be a bit of the mediator. Look, clearly you know something about this. I mean, they're downing your drinks like it's no tomorrow. There's
no need
let's
for
sit
fighting.
Let's just sit down and have a nice chat, and, well, I mean, we could probably make it worth your while.
The half-orc pipes up at this point, also looking quite angry, and all of you can tell that the atmosphere is very much against you. No one is looking at you positively in this interaction. The few people that are here. Listen, your mate there touched his drink, and as he said, you don't touch a dwarf's drink. You should know that. Points at Durgus as he says that. And you may want to talk, but maybe we don't.
Well, maybe a few coins could loosen your lips a little. And then with this, he sort of reaches down and pulls forwards a pouch, sort of shaking it in front of him.
The half-orc is going to look at the dwarf. The dwarf is going to just shrug angrily and huff as the half-orc turns back. How many's a few?
Well, let's see. How many pints do you think you could buy with, and he sort of roots through his thing as Jensen checks how much gold he actually has, and pulls forwards 2 gold pieces.
2 shiny gold pieces.
Ooh.
The half-orc looks between them and just snorts. Not worth it. Yeah.
Oh, I've not done counting just yet. Then he sort of goes 3, then 4, and sort of peers back up.
His eyes don't move or flicker.
Then he adds 5.
Well, clearly they don't have anything to say, and they wouldn't want to be interested in the books that we found containing the information that the other people were seeking down there. Probably just some drunken brawlers that... Yeah.
Yeah. As she says, yeah, they're totally not interested in all that juicy information we found.
No, we
John
got
Reynolds.
3 books with us, and it contained all of the information about the ship and what happened on it.
Hell, I'm
Yeah.
sure the militia would go after them as well. I mean, having talked to us.
Aye.
I mean, it'd be unfortunate if there's no one to protect them.
Aye. Since we're good friends with, like, the fat man and everything.
There is absolutely no flicker of emotion or care with everything you're talking about. They just stare levelly at you.
Clearly this isn't working, so how about this? What price would you put to this information? He says to the half-orc.
Half-orc briefly flashes a look at the dwarf before going, 50 gold.
50?
Yeah.
You're mad. 50.
Give me a moment, let me at least collect it from our room.
He looks from sort of like between the dwarf and then to Natara and goes, I'm not mad. Just don't like you.
Just don't like
Uh,
us.
Would you mind waiting while I collect the gold?
He looks down at the last dregs of his drink and goes, still got a little left.
Fine, just wait here. And Brannon's gonna go upstairs to the room they were in before, and unless anyone else is doing anything, he's gonna get out the small coin pouch he's got, emptying the coins he's got into his bag, and basically finding any kind of junk he can that may, hopefully some stones, but maybe something metallic that's in that just destroyed room, and fill up this bag. So it's pretty hefty.
The room
And
is
then-
the room is not ransacked anymore.
Oh, is he? Oh, they
The,
cleaned
no,
it
the
up.
gnome has tidied it
Damn it! Is there anything he can get that might be able to fill this sack?
with 50 pieces. How many different
Stones,
small
small-
things? Do you
It
need?
doesn't really matter. Stones or something like that, or maybe
Yeah, but
just,
what person puts stones in an inn room?
yeah.
Decorations with
many?
candles?
How many do you need? How many do you need? Because that's the important one.
It's more for weight than actual
Oh,
a
you want
number.
weight. I think what would be in there that you could use. It's not a huge amount. These rooms are just kind of beds and space, not
Could
really bits and pieces.
And I'm guessing going by them is the only way to get outside.
Yeah.
Bugger it. Oh, I've put myself into a corner here. Fine. He'll go back out, get down, and then go straight outside, just kind of ignoring them. Bugger it. And then
Okay.
grab some stones from outside to fill up this bag.
So yeah, Brannon walks off into the rooms, is gone for let's say a minute, comes back and walks straight out saying nothing. Whilst this happens, the dwarf finishes his drink, slams it down, and goes, I don't want to stay here with these. As he pushes himself up with a little bit of a sway, suggesting he's been drinking a lot. Whilst the half-orc nods his head very slowly. Yeah, I don't really like him either. You got 50 gold on you? He looks between the rest of you who aren't Brannon.
Well, we're waiting for our friend to come down again.
Down from
Yeah,
out
he just-
there.
From out where?
Into the door where Brannon's just walked.
If you just want to leave and be cowards, then that's fine.
Cowards? Are you dumb? The half-orc pushes himself up. Your friend said he'd get gold and then walked off.
Yeah, and he's going to get you the gold. I mean, what, you're backing down from a deal now?
Well, he said there'll be a few minutes, and it's not been a few minutes yet.
Be a persuasion with disadvantage.
Oh God Almighty, this is scuffed.
Is
Is this me or Natara?
Either one of you. I'll let you decide who's making that roll.
I've got a
persuasion.
-1.
Okay, I got 0, so I guess it's me.
Oh god. A 6.
It could be worse.
There is just a look between the two. They turn towards the door and just start walking for it. Possibly, in fact, seeing Brannon as he's turned over in the dirt, picking up stones.
Oh, come on. He's been there for a while. Surely he would have been able to.
We just grabbed a fistful of rocks.
Just grabbed a... Okay, so he's got a... Okay, walking back in with a big coin burst. They just look at you, pull their heads up, and walk out.
Oh, bugger. I'll walk back in with the now purse full of rocks and go, well, I was going to try it, but it didn't work.
Yeah,
So
What
you-
was that about?
Oh, well, I thought there would be stuff upstairs, and then there wasn't. And I needed to fill this up, and he dumps the bag on the table.
And you were gonna.
The big hat
with
like
an
you don't have
illusion?
no gold.
Well, not 50.
50 is like a stretch. I bet they've never seen 50 gold in their lifetime.
And what's if you pinning him down? What was that about? He sort of flares his hand towards Baron.
Well, he did, like, go after Geronimo.
He was
Yeah, but I'm too
run.
fast, dodge, kind of thing.
No, I would have done the same if a dude tried to down the pint, but I mean, pinning him down just pissed me off.
It wasn't the smartest thing to do, Baron.
I'm not the smartest person. I don't think with rocks and bags, and he kind of just goes
We
off.
should have just grabbed them and beat them up and forced them to tell us what.
Well, the rocks in the bags was for me to do this, and
He was gonna do
waves
his
his hand
magic.
over the bag, and it turns into it looks like a bag of gold.
See?
Well, what use is that? I mean,
Well, to trick them to think they got 50 gold. Well, they got stone.
Maybe we shouldn't be telling our grand plan in the middle of a tavern.
There is definitely still people around you watching you as you have this conversation quite openly. The gnome who runs the tavern has also poked her head back in, looking very worried and concerned. Over her shoulder, a small kind of Hessian sack, which seems to it's got very loose weave, and you can see some firewood that's inside. What was that about?
We were trying to get information from those two because they seem to know something about the old library.
No. Don't talk to the regulars, please. Don't want any fights. Don't want anyone having any trouble. Just have a drink, sit by the fire. Yes? She nods her head, eyes kind of taking on that almost very intense look of someone who is doing something against their will.
Do you not have your own control over your own tavern? They don't run this place.
There's a big inhalation at that statement, and just the locals are good customers, and I think we should leave them to their drinking and business, if you know what I mean.
Natara holds up her hands like, wait. You alright? She looks at the gnome.
Absolutely fine. Just sit by the fire, have your drinks, talk quietly, and leave the regulars alone.
Alright.
Look, let's just talk about this later, and let's warm ourselves by the fire, as she says. Would you mind maybe if we could get some food as well? We'll pay, of course.
Food I can do. And as she says that, you guys can begin to gather around the fire, stripping off perhaps deeply sodden cloaks and overclothes, whilst the gnome sets about stoking up the fireplace. And that is where we are going to call session 1 of this campaign. Ooh, indeed. To those of you who are still with us and watching, thank you very much for joining us. This is our first time streaming this. We, I think, have had a lot of fun. We hope you have too. You can obviously follow the channel and get notifications. We do have a Discord you can join where there will be announcements. If you click the button that I think says Take the Pact, you can join our Discord. We'll be doing announcements there. You can ask us questions there. All of that fun. We also have... Go on, sorry.
Sorry, and just chill and chat, if you want. On Discord.
We also have a Twitter. We have an Instagram where we'll be posting stuff as well. But yeah, I think that was a lot of fun. So once again, thank you everyone for coming and watching us. And we hope to see all of you next week.
Yeah, next week it will be same time on Tuesday, 7 o'clock GMT.
this will go up on YouTube, I believe, the next Monday or following Monday, won't it, Jake?
Yeah, Mondays is
Yeah,
when we put it up on YouTube.
We'll be editing this and hopefully getting it up on YouTube by Monday.
Yeah, so if you missed any bits of it, you can always go back and have a listen.
And
Fantastic.
during while we were playing, somebody said that they didn't get a ping about this starting. There might be an option that you just haven't put on when you followed the page. There's a slider there where you can put notifications on so you don't miss it.
That's it. Blame the viewer, Kev.
Hey now. It's happened
blame the viewer.
so many times, to be honestly. I'm like, what? My
Well-
friends are
well-
streaming? Shit.
Rather than fall into the trap of blaming the viewer or the streamer, I think we can call it there. And once again, leave on a thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful night, and we hope to see you all next week.
Oh, yeah.
Bye.
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 Bye.